Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 37, Calmness and Savagery. Bloodbath Gorge. Emmanuel and Foreign were together. "I have a bad feeling," Foreign said with a frown. "Father, what is it?" Emmanuel said hurriedly. Foreign said, "Look at how much the patriarch cared about that sovereign's emissary. Most likely, he wants to draw that sovereign's emissary closer to us. After all, our four divine beasts clan is currently in dire straits. If that's the case, Linley most likely won't be punished." "Won't be punished?" Emmanuel was frantic. He had wanted to deal with Linley this entire time. This time, he wanted to steal a chicken, but instead just lost the bait. Even his most powerful divine water clone had been destroyed. The sort of rage this engendered had all immediately and naturally been transferred onto Linley. He wasn't strong enough to deal with Linley, so he wanted to find some other methods. "How can Linley not be punished?" Emmanuel said hurriedly. The Grand Elder already agreed. "Shut your mouth." Foreign frowned and shouted. Emmanuel immediately didn't dare to make a sound. Foreign took a deep breath. After being quiet for a moment, allowing the room to fall into silence, Foreign finally said in a soft voice, "As I see it, it's not too likely that the clan will punish Linley. It'll be up to us." "What method do we have?" Emmanuel said hurriedly. "There are many methods." Foreign couldn't help but narrow his eyes, and he laughed coldly. "This time, someone rescued Linley. I refuse to believe that in the future, he'll be so lucky as to be rescued again." "Father, are you saying?" Emmanuel laughed. "I know each and every one of the elders of the clan. It won't be too hard to set up a trap for him to fall into. There will be plenty of opportunities." Foreign said confidently. "During a battle, if we play a few tricks, humph. When experts are battling each other, even the slightest distraction can be enough to take his life. In particular, if our side loses all of our 6-star fiends in a battle and there are no eyewitnesses remaining, we can kill him directly." Foreign laughed coldly. "Even if he cries out at the injustice of it all, who will believe him?" Emmanuel's face immediately broke out into a smile. "How can a junior descendant like him be worthy of the azure dragon ring of our ancestor?" Foreign snickered. "Even with the azure dragon ring, he's only an ordinary 7-star fiend. If I were to hold the azure dragon ring, I would be much more useful to the clan than he is." "Indeed." If Foreign were to fly out with Linley, Linley wouldn't suspect that Foreign would suddenly attack him. When flying normally, Linley would be in his human form. Once Foreign truly attacked, the results would be easily imagined. Linley could cry out at the injustice, but without any witnesses, so what if he did? Foreign could simply maintain that it was an enemy who had done it. There was nothing Linley could do at all. "Foreign! Emmanuel!" A voice rang out. "Mother's here." Foreign hurriedly rose to his feet, and Emmanuel rose, standing to the side respectfully. Kriak! The hall door swung open. The Grand Elder, wearing that silver mask, directly walked in. She looked calmly at the two of them. "Foreign, Emmanuel. The matter of punishing Linley comes to an end, here and now." Emmanuel felt shock in his heart. It really as father predicted it? However, although it might not be possible now, in the future, we'll still have our chance. Carrying out missions involved walking a fine line between life and death. If one's partners were to secretly cause trouble, the chance of survival would be very low. From today onwards, Linley will depart from Bloodbath Gorge. He will not take on any assignments from Bloodbath Gorge," the Grand Elder said calmly. Foreign and Emmanuel were stunned. They were utterly stupefied. "Mother, how can that be?" Foreign said hurriedly. "The rules of our clan state that each person can only retire after 1,000 years. Linley hasn't been in Bloodbath Gorge for very long. He's far from reaching the 1,000-year mark. Right. The rules of the clan can't be broken. Emmanuel said frantically as well. If Linley weren't to take on assignments in Bloodbath Gorge, and instead remained in the Skirite Mountains, there was no way at all for them to make Linley die. After all, no private battles were permitted within the Skirite Mountains. This is the decision of the 4 clan leaders, the Grand Elder said coldly. Foran and Emmanuel, hearing these words, couldn't help but be stunned. The Patriarch was the leader of their clan. The joint orders of the 4 clan leaders were completely unchangeable. From that day onwards, Linley no longer needed to go to Bloodbath Gorge. He was able to calmly live a peaceful life. Delia and Bibi, upon hearing this news, were extremely happy, and so, in such a peaceful manner, their life proceeded. In the eyes of the 4 Divine Beasts clan, Linley was their hope of a connection to the Redbud Sovereign. But what Linley didn't know was, to the 8 great clans, he was their greatest threat. The Skirite Mountains. Within the gorge, there was a grassy yard in front of Linley's room, which had a stone table placed in the middle of it. The stone table had a bottle of wine atop it, and Linley was currently holding a book in his hands. Linley's 4 clones were all training, while his original body was enjoying the peace. Delia walked out from her room, holding 2 plates of food in her hands. Seeing Linley reading, she couldn't help but chuckle. She walked over, gently placing the plates down on the stone table. Linley suddenly smelled a fragrant odor, and he turned to look at the platter. His eyes couldn't help but to light up. Delia, haha, it smells so delicious. Your culinary skills have improved greatly. As he spoke, he flipped the book shut. He immediately went to go for a taste, and ate while praising, "Not bad, not bad. The taste is comparable to that of the restaurants in the cities." Far from it. Delia laughed, her face blushing. This is based off of one of several cooking recipes I bought on my last trip to the city. The ingredients for these dishes, I acquired by asking those who went to the cities to buy for me. Delia sat down across from him, resting her chin on her hands as she watched Linley eat. As Linley ate, he suddenly began to chuckle. "Why are you laughing like an idiot?" Delia couldn't help but smile as well. "I'm just thinking." Linley let out a sigh. Training in the laws, adventuring in the boundless infernal realm, then, when free, reading some books, drinking some fine wine, then eating the delicious food prepared by my wife. This sort of life is simply, haha, perfect. Linley laughed, absolutely delighted. Delia laughed as well. "Linley, if you always want to live such a comfortable life, you can, you know," Delia said. "As long as in the future, you don't go to Bloodbath Gorge, that'll be enough. I keep on having the feeling that the 4 Divine Beasts clan care too much about their face. If it was me, I would have ordered the 4 Divine Beasts clan to remain locked in the mountain. The members of the clan would all live quiet lives. Why go battle against those 8 great clans?" Linley put down his chopsticks. "Enough, Delia." Linley laughed. "Life, especially for those who possess unending life, is all about face. The glory of the clan is particularly valued. Unless it is absolutely necessary, the clan won't choose to retreat into the mountains and completely turtle up." Delia laughed. "It doesn't matter to me, as long as you don't have to go to Bloodbath Gorge." In Delia's heart, she didn't feel too much of a sense of belonging to the 4 Divine Beasts clan. All she cared about was, that Linley had to be safe. Hee, Linley chuckled. "Come, you have a taste as well. This flavor really is excellent." Linley laughed as he spoke. In the blink of an eye, 100 years of this sort of life passed. With Linley by her side, Delia naturally didn't feel bored at all. Every day, her face was wreathed in smiles, and she also learned how to cook one delicacy after another, to Linley's great delight, as he could now often taste new food. As for Bibi, He occasionally would be with Linley, or joke around with the members of the Yulon branch, but when bored, BB would still join the clan's squadrons and head out to the city for a stroll. Bloodbath Gorge. The grand palace of the four divine beasts. The four clan leaders were assembled there. It's only been a century. Gislazen's face was gloomy. In the past century, it seems as though those 8 great clans have gone mad. They don't care about casualties at all, nor about wasting sovereign's might. They insist on killing our people. The patriarch of the White Tiger clan said furiously. In the past century, our Vermilion Bird clan has lost 3 elders. The rest of you. The matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan said, a long, gloomy look her face. Our White Tiger clan has lost 4 elders. The patriarch of the White Tiger clan's words held boundless rage. Third brother, how about your Black Tortoise clan? The patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan let out a low sigh as well. Our Black Tortoise clan's losses have been severe as well. We lost 2 elders. It has only been a century. Elder brother. The matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan looked towards Gislazen. Our Azure Dragon clan has lost 3 elders. Gislazen sighed. By my calculations, in a short century, our 4 Divine Beasts clan has lost a total of 12 elders. Based on how things had previously progressed in their war of attrition, the loss of 12 elders was something which would happen in 1,000 years. But now, they reached that number in a mere century. Those 8 great clans have gone mad. The matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan said angrily. In the past century, each time, they'll send out 3 or 4 7-star fiends. And each time, one of them will be holding a sovereign's might. They don't begrudge using the sovereign's might at all, if it means they can kill all our people. They've lost quite a bit in their madness as well. Gislazen said. Our Azure Dragon clan alone has killed 4 of their elders. Our Vermilion Bird clan has killed 3. The 4 clan leaders all reported their results. In the past 1,000 years, the losses of the 8 great clans have been even greater than ours. They lost 15 of their elders. Gislazen said. But the 8 great clans have the advantage of numbers. The patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan said in a low voice. Ever since our 4 ancestors died, our 4 Divine Beasts clan has lost, in total, nearly 127 star fiends. Now, our entire 4 Divine Beasts clan has, all combined, roughly around 100 surviving 7-star fiends. But the enemy? They have more than 307 star fiends in total. Any of the 8 great clans could compare with the Azure Dragon clan in terms of experts. Early on, the Azure Dragon clan had over 67 star fiends as well. The 8 great clans originally had nearly 507 star fiends as well. After so many years of warfare, they had killed nearly 127 star fiends of the 4 Divine Beasts clan, while they themselves had lost more than 100. But despite that, the combined forces of the 8 great clans still numbered more than 307 star fiends. If this sort of attrition continued, even after all of the experts of the 4 Divine Beasts clan were dead, the enemy would probably still have 200 or more elders. In addition, the enemy also had many supreme experts. The patriarchs of the 8 great clans were all extremely powerful figures. Madness. Madness. They ignore the cost in sovereign's might and in deaths of 7-star fiends. They've all gone mad. The patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan said unhappily. What's going on? In the past 10,000 years, they've never been as wild as this. Why have they gone so mad in the past century? Gislazen simply couldn't understand it. But how could the leaders of the 4 Divine Beasts clan have imagined that the reason these 8 great clans had gone mad and sent out 3 or 4 elders to join forces each time was, first of all, in the hopes that when they ran into Linley, they would be able to kill him. And the second reason was, they wanted to speed up the pace. They didn't dare to waste more time, for fear that as time went on, Linley might suddenly break through and become that which they feared the most, a high god paragon. Although the 4 Divine Beasts clan and the 8 great clans had entered a wild state, the Skirite Mountains were still very quiet and calm. Linley lived this sort of calm life with no struggles, while his 4 clones constantly improved as well. After his retirement from Bloodbath Gorge, 200 years had passed. In the past 200 years, Linley had made the greatest improvements in his Divine Water clone, which could in fact be described as having made monstrous gains. The speed at which he gained new insights into the profound mysteries was absolutely astonishing. It was on a full level faster than even his Divine Earth clone and his Divine Wind clone. Naturally, it was countless times faster than his Divine Fire clone. By now, his Divine Water clone had already reached the God level long ago, and had mastered 3 profound mysteries and was currently working on the 4th, but actually, if one closely considered it, this wasn't too astonishing. After all, after the ancestral baptism, Linley had naturally understood one of the profound mysteries. His Divine Wind clone had gained mastery into a 6th profound mystery, but since the laws of the wind had 9 profound mysteries in total, it was harder to advance in. As for his Divine Fire clone, it was still working on the 3rd profound mystery, advancing at a slow pace. Linley, your life is quite comfortable. A loud laugh rang out. Linley, Delia, and Bibi were seated around a table, eating while chatting. Linley turned to look. The person who had walked in was Elder Garvey. Garvey seems to have a rather unhappy look on his face. He's worrying about something. Linley could tell this at a single glance. For an expert such as Elder Garvey to so easily reveal his thoughts meant that something major had definitely occurred. Elder Garvey. Bibi was the first to welcome him happily. Hurry on over. This is the first time my boss cooked. Have a taste, it is so delicious, you could die. Bibi. Linley couldn't help but feel his face heat up. He clearly had done exactly as the cookbook described, but the difference in flavor between what he had cooked and what Delia cooked was, simply too vast. However, it wasn't so bad as to cause someone to die. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 38, Most Powerful Attack. Haha, Elder Garvey couldn't help but laugh. He immediately pointed at Linley and said, Elder Linley, I didn't imagine that you are able to cook. I have to taste your dishes. Garvey walked over as he spoke. Elder Garvey was going to eat? If Elder Garvey was to eat, the terribleness of the food would definitely be spread throughout the clan. Elder Garvey. Linley hurriedly stood up, blocking in front of Elder Garvey. Laughing, he said, Elder Garvey, this is my first time cooking. There's no need to taste it? Right. Judging from your face, it seems as though you are worrying about something. Linley hurriedly changed the topic. And indeed, as Linley did, Elder Garvey couldn't help but let out a long sigh, then sit down to one side. What's happened? Linley asked. Elder Garvey laughed bitterly. Elder Linley, in the past 2 centuries, you haven't gone to Bloodbath Gorge, have you? Right. Ever since he had been summoned by the 4 clan leaders and then instructed not to participate in Bloodbath Gorge, he hadn't gone there a single time. It's only been 200 years. Elder Garvey seemed to have a belly full of resentment and pain. Linley, do you know? In these 2 short centuries, our Azure Dragon clan has lost 5 elders. 5. Linley was shocked by this number. The Azure Dragon clan usually lost 2 or 3 elders in 1,000 years. To lose 5 in 2 centuries, this was too significant. Factoring in what happened to Emmanuel and our house, our Azure Dragon clan only has 20 or so elders who truly have the power of a 7-star fiend. Elder Garvey said, his eyes turning moist. My teacher lost his most powerful clone just yesterday on a mission. He no longer has a 7-star fiend level of power either. Linley couldn't help but fall silent. As for Delia and Bibi, it wasn't appropriate for them to interject right now either. It's only been 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, the elders of the clan numbered more than 60. In 10,000 short years, we've lost more than half. Elder Garvey sighed. Based on this sort of speed, the number of elders in Bloodbath Gorge definitely won't be enough. We'll probably be recruited earlier this time. Normally, the elders of Bloodbath Gorge were swapped out every 1,000 years. However, they were losing them at too fast a pace. As this continued, the number of elders available in Bloodbath Gorge would be insufficient. Those idle elders such as Garvey would have to go make up the numbers. What is going on? How could there be so many casualties? Linley couldn't understand it. Defeating a 7-star fiend is easy, but killing a 7-star fiend is very hard. The 8 great clans have gone mad. Elder Garvey snorted angrily. In the past 2 centuries, they've gone completely mad. Each battle, they'll send out 3 or 4 7-star fiends, and one of them will definitely be holding a sovereign's might. Our elders have barely any chance to survive each battle. As Linley heard this, the look on his face couldn't help but change. Why are the 8 great clans acting like this? Linley felt rather puzzled. The 8 great clans had never gone so mad before, but ever since that last battle of his, the 8 great clans had gone mad. Could it be that it has something to do with me or Fusro? Or was this the original plan for the 8 great clans all along? Linley couldn't help but speculate. All right, Linley. I won't disturb you any further. You need to train hard. Originally, I thought that this battle between ourselves and the 8 great clans would keep on dragging out. But now, it seems, the final battle between us will come soon. Elder Garvey finished his words, then immediately flew into the air and left, departing. The final battle. Linley couldn't help but mumble. Boss, what final battle? BB's eyes were shining. Don't ask. Based on your current power, you aren't qualified to participate. When one day you become a high god, then we'll talk. Linley laughed. Once BB became a high god, given his innate divine ability, God-Eater, he would be an absolutely monster. BB couldn't help but pout. I've only mastered 5 profound mysteries. I haven't even gained a basic understanding of the 6th profound mystery. Grandpa Beirut is really, ugh. Why didn't he give me that 6th soul slice fragment to me early on? Wouldn't that be much easier? Both Linley and Delia laughed. BB had currently mastered 5 profound mysteries. The first one was one which he had naturally understood upon becoming an adult. As for the other 4, he had gained them from soul slice fragments that contained understandings of profound mysteries that was at the bottleneck level. He had succeeded in taking this shortcut. To have BB gain insights on his own? Unlikely. BB, if you can't gain any insights, you can go try fusing other mysteries. Delia chortled as well. Once you successfully fuse something, your power will improve greatly. That's not a bad idea. Although it's a bit harder, I might just succeed. BB grew animated. He immediately flew towards his own residence, and Linley and Delia both laughed. I wager that BB will be able to hold on for 1 year at most. Linley laughed. A year? He might not even be able to hold on for half a year. Delia laughed. I will definitely persevere for 2 years. BB's voice rang out from above. Linley and Delia glanced at each other, then both began to laugh. Linley then said solemnly, Delia, just now, from what Garvey said, I feel some pressure. I plan to have my original body begin training again. Starting today. All right. Delia's eyes became filled with worry as well. I feel rather worried as well. The situation is growing worse and worse. Train hard. I won't disturb you. Linley nodded and chuckled. The 8 great clans continued to act with wild abandon. One elder after another of the 8 great clans and the 4 divine beasts clan fell, while rows on rows of 6 star fiends died as well. The situation was unbearably grim. As for Linley's 4 clones and his original body, they were all quietly training. As he trained, time flowed on like water. Ever since acquiring the Black Stone, Linley had treated his divine earth clone as his primary divine clone, wholeheartedly focusing on the laws of the earth. When fusing profound mysteries, the further one advanced, the harder it became. With regards to the laws of the earth, Linley had fused 3 types. He had attempted to fuse a 4th, but was completely unable to fuse the world walking technique with the other 3 profound mysteries. At the same time, Linley had also attempted to fuse the not yet mastered profound mysteries of strength with the other 3 as well. Within the gorge, Linley was currently together with Delia. Linley looked into the distance, clearly able to see quite a few clansmen. It had been 3 centuries since Linley had left Bloodbath Gorge. "I've finally made a breakthrough." Linley's face was all smiles. "Look at how pleased you are." Delia laughed. The greatest breakthrough he had made on this training session was that he had begun to link together and fuse the profound mysteries of strength with the throbbing pulse of the world. However, to fuse the profound mysteries of strength with the other 3 required that they had to all become as one. "Of course I'm happy. Delia, this profound mysteries of strength is something that can allow me to unleash my power more effectively," Linley said hurriedly. "The throbbing pulse of the world can allow me to unleash material attacks as well. Once I fuse them, I can unleash the strength I have in dragon form in a much more effective manner." His greatest advantage was his body. The power of his body in dragon form was such that with a single fist, he could block the most powerful sword attack of a 6-star fiend. And that was just by relying on a simple punch. Once he included the might of the profound mysteries of strength, the power would greatly increase. But if he were to then fuse the throbbing pulse of the world, the power would increase still further. Different profound mysteries are suited to different types of attacks. Thus, generally speaking, after fusing certain profound mysteries, one will develop an attack that allows one to best unleash one's power. Linley sighed. 7-star fiends have generally fused 4 types of profound mysteries, but some are specialized in fleeing, some are specialized in soul attacks, and some are specialized in material attacks. This is because their fusion of profound mysteries is different. Delia nodded. Prior to this, Linley had fused the throbbing pulse of the world, the essence of the earth, and gravitational space, these 3 types of profound mysteries. These 3 profound mysteries, when combined with the Black Stone, created the Black Stone Prison, his most powerful technique. But as for material attacks, the profound mysteries of the laws of the earth most suited for material attacks were the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world. The most suitable were the best. When these 2 profound mysteries are fused, my attacks in dragon form will reach a new level," Linley said confidently. His strength in dragon form was tremendous to begin with. He had a very good base. Once he fused these 2 profound mysteries, it was frightening just to think about how powerful he would be. Linley's Blackstone prison could be used to trap people, but his attack was too weak, and the energy in his body was only at the god level. He had to rely on his dragon form, but although his strength was great, he still wasn't able to kill someone in one blow. Once I fuse these 2 profound mysteries, I'll first use my Blackstone prison to trap the enemy, and then give him a punch. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be badly injured. Linley was completely confident. Delia laughed as she watched Linley grow so animated as he spoke. "Boss!" Suddenly, a voice rang out. Linley and Delia both turned, only to see BB fly over, beaming merrily. "Boss, I need to go out on a trip." "Go out on a trip?" "To Mir City." Linley laughed. "Right. It's been quite a while since I've seen Tarasi, Dylan, and the others. I'll go visit them." BB mumbled. I hear that Olivier has already left Mir City. He's gone out for an adventure. Who knows if he's still in Mir City? Fine, go then. Have a safe trip. Linley laughed. Heh, no worries. BB chortled and waved, then flew into the skies. Linley suddenly had a thought. Ever since he had returned to the gorge, Delia hadn't made a single trip. Linley couldn't help but turn to look at Delia. Delia, do you want to go out as well? How about this time, we'll go to Mir City together. No rush. Delia shook her head. Linley, you'd best focus on your training. After you've mastered your fusion of the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world, we can go together. Thank you. Linley said gratefully. Delia just smiled at him. Linley ignored the chaos that was happening in the outside world, focusing solely on his training. Occasionally, his original body would pause for a while to spend some time with Delia. After beginning the fusion of the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world, he continued to advance and improve. As he trained, he barely noticed the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, 500 years had passed since he had left Bloodbath Gorge. In the Great Gorge, the place where Linley lived, Delia was seated quietly within her room, flipping through a book in her hands. Right at this moment. Ha ha! Suddenly, loud laughter rang out from within the room. Delia was startled, but then turned to look, overjoyed. She saw Linley, his long hair fluttering loosely, walk in with great strides. As soon as he saw Delia, he laughed. Delia, I finally broke through. After 500 years, I finally broke through. What did you break through in? Delia hurriedly stood up. I've finally mastered the profound mysteries of strength. And, I've completely fused the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world. Linley was exceedingly delighted. After this day, Linley had mastered a total of 5 of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of the earth, with only one remaining, vitality. However, fusion really is hard. The profound mysteries of strength have only been fused with the throbbing pulse of the world. I haven't fused it at all with the gravitational space or the essence of the earth, Linley said with a sigh. He had originally hoped to be able to fuse it with the other 2 as well, so that he could strive to fuse 4 profound mysteries. But from the looks of it, the path of fusion was indeed an extremely long one. You are already doing quite well. Delia laughed encouragingly. Didn't you say that after you fuse the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world, that you will have a powerful material attack? Of course. Linley laughed as he thought of this. The profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world were both suited for material attacks. However, although I've fused these 2 profound mysteries, I still need to carefully analyze them and develop an attack technique suited to these profound mysteries. Linley said. Still, it won't take too long. At most half a year or a year, but perhaps as little as 2 weeks. Linley himself was rather eager. Once he developed it, he could pair this attack with his Blackstone prison. Even if he were to encounter Below again, he wouldn't just launch a simple fist without injuring Below at all. Even if he was unable to kill Below, he'd still be able to heavily wound him. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 39, Firmament Splitter. The Skirite Mountains. At the borders of the Great Gorge. Boom. 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 One massive vibration after another shook the earth. Many of the residents within the gorge could clearly sense these vibrations. They all felt puzzled, and quite a few headed to the place where the vibrations were emanating from. When they did, they saw that Linley was sending one punch after another into the ground. Although his fist didn't actually impact the ground, the pulsating power of his blows still spread into the ground, causing it to tremble. It's Elder Linley. Those clansmen who had been somewhat annoyed, upon seeing that it was Linley training, Didn't dare to say anything. Still not right. Linley shook his head, then unleashed yet another heavy punch. Although the punches seemed to be coming out at an extremely slow speed, they gave off the sensation of carrying the force of a mountain. When Linley's fist stopped at the end of each punch, vibrations passed through space. But Linley just frowned, once more changing his style of attack. When testing techniques, Linley wasn't in dragon form. After all, once he was in dragon form, the power of each fist would be simply too terrifying. Linley was completely absorbed in his training, constantly testing. In his mind, one type of attack after another arose, and then was quickly discarded. Constant improvement. Patriarch, Elder Linley is currently in his gorge, punching the ground repeatedly, as though he is testing out some sort of technique. Elder Linley has already been training like this for a month. A black-robed figure said respectfully. Patriarch Gislason couldn't help but laugh. Oh? Punching the ground? It seems he must be testing out a material attack. He's been wasting his advantage of having such a powerful body. He should have started training a more powerful material attack long ago. Relying on one's advantages was the intelligent choice. Since Linley's body was powerful, he naturally had to focus on it. I want to see what he's developed. Gislason immediately walked out of his residence. In the past 5 centuries, Gislason had been worrying about the future of the 4 Divine Beasts clan. He was also in a very bad mood. For him to go out and take a look was also a way by which he could relax. Gislason flew at a very fast speed, soon arriving in the air above the gorge. Rumble. Gislason could clearly sense the ripples in air. It seems he's doing quite well. Gislason flew over at high speed, arriving at a place in the sky directly above Linley's training location. Linley was currently completely absorbed in launching one attack after another, gaining insights and improving with each blow, and so he didn't notice that anyone had arrived. Linley's right fist once more struck out. His fist seemed like a giant millstone that was grinding slowly, and yet actually moved as fast as lightning. This punch actually created ripples in space that could be seen with the naked eye. Oh ho! Gislason's eyes lit up. Not right. Still not right, Linley was shaking his head. Each time he discarded a technique, he did so because he had gained a better understanding of it, and so he had made new breakthroughs. As he discovered flaws, he would once more seek an attack with greater power. One technique discarded after another. One breakthrough after another. A look of surprise slowly appeared on Gislason's face. Strange. Why has the ground stopped trembling? Everyone had gotten used to the ground trembling. When the ground stopped trembling, the clansmen who lived in the gorge were actually surprised, and quite a few hurried towards Linley's training area. Can it be that Elder Linley has stopped training? The clansmen all hurried over, but as they did, they saw that Linley was still repeatedly punching towards the ground. All of you, leave. A voice rumbled and echoed throughout the minds of the spectators. Don't disturb Elder Linley. These clansmen were all shocked. Only now did they discover that there was a person standing there in the air above. This person was their patriarch, Gislason. But these ordinary clansmen had never before met their patriarch. That person seems to be an expert of some sort. The clansmen didn't dare to disturb Linley, and so they all left. Gislason turned to look at Linley, a hint of a smile being revealed on his face. Linley struck out with his fist yet again, and at the edges of his punch, many spatial ripples appeared. The strange thing was, these spatial ripples all folded upon each other, rather than emanating outwards. It was as though all of those spatial ripples were connected and building onto each other. Break. Linley had been training for more than 3 months. After 3 months of silence, Linley suddenly let out a growl, striking out with a massive punch. At the edges of this punch, a large number of spatial ripples appeared, and then they vanished. I finally succeeded. A look of surprise and joy appeared on Linley's face. With a crackle sound, draconic scales immediately tore apart his clothes as they appeared from his body. Those savage spikes jutted out as well. Dragon form. Let's see how my most powerful material attack does. Linley wanted to give it a test and see how he could do with a full force attack. Linley suddenly turned and stared behind him, only to see Gislason watching him while grinning. Linley was shocked, and he hurriedly said, "Clan leader. Haha, go ahead and test your attack." Gislason laughed. "Given the strength of your body in dragon form, I am quite eager to see what the power will be like, myself." "Yes, Patriarch." Linley couldn't help but feel itchy in his heart as well, and he immediately prepared for a test blow. Linley's draconic scale-covered right fist suddenly swung out, and in the instant that it did, with a sudden rumble, the sound of space itself exploding could be heard. Wherever his right fist swung past, space trembled violently. The power of this punch was akin to a flood dragon leaving its lair. As the punch struck out, a large number of spatial ripples appeared at the edges of his draconic scale-covered fist, causing the space around his fist to form a rippling half-sphere that was like a bubble of ripples. And then, the explosion. Bang! A sound which caused the soul to tremble. The space surrounding the fist all blew apart, revealing a large black hole in space. Through this hole in space, one could clearly sense the vibrations from the region of chaotic space. In an instant, the hole in space disappeared. "Haha, good, good." Gislason's loud laughter rang out. Linley was filled with joy as well. Although he had developed this attack in human form, that was just hypothetical. There was no way he could be sure what the power of the attack would be like when he was in dragon form. But now it appeared, the power exceeded his expectations. "Linley, what's the name of this technique of yours?" Gislason laughed loudly. Linley paused for a moment, then said, "This attack was formed from the fusing of the profound mysteries of strength and the throbbing pulse of the world. Its name is Firmament Splitter. This blow was capable of shattering space with a single punch. One could imagine how great its power was. Come, have a spar with me." Gislason laughed loudly. "Patriarch." Linley couldn't help but feel astonished. "Hurry up." Gislason couldn't help but frown. "What, do you think you can actually beat me?" As he spoke, Gislason's body became covered with azure draconic scales as well. The color of the scales was identical to Linley's, but he didn't have any sharp spikes on his body. Linley began to laugh. "Patriarch, so you have this desire, then I will accompany you in a spar." Linley was very confident right now as well. "Linley, even just by comparing bodies, I'm more powerful than you. You have to use all your force." Gislason laughed. Linley laughed, and then immediately set up his blackstone space. Instantly, a blurry earthen yellow light sprang up, trapping Gislason within. Even the body of Patriarch Gislason couldn't help but tremble, and he couldn't help but let out a low curse, "This punk is really..." But before he finished his words, Linley came flying at him. "Patriarch." Linley laughed loudly, his right fist flashing forward like thunder. "Humph." A low snort. Gislason, his long azure hair fluttering, also sent his own right fist forward. Boom. Two draconic scale-covered metal fists, carrying countless tons of force, collided. Space itself was immediately torn open like a thin piece of paper. Gislason's right fist couldn't help but shake, and Gislason hurriedly moved backwards, a hint of blood having actually appeared on his fist. "Not bad, kid." Gislason's eyes were shining. "It seems as though it's not enough for me to just use raw force against you." Linley, looking at the Patriarch who seemed to have gone berserk, was shocked inwardly. The Patriarch's body truly is tough. I used my most powerful blow, but the Patriarch only used raw strength. But of course, The result of the patriarch just using raw strength was that the draconic scales atop his fist had shattered. From this exchange of fists, Linley was made clearly aware that Patriarch Gislazen's reputation of having the most powerful body in the Azure Dragon clan was indeed a solid one. It only made sense. When he had his arm captured by Gislazen that time, he hadn't been able to resist at all. What technique is this? Linley was somewhat astonished as he saw that a layer of frost had actually appeared on Gislazen's entire body, completely covering the Patriarch, including even his fist. The ice-clad Gislazen, under the glow of the sun, gleamed with beautiful light. "Kid, I'll just use half my strength." Gislazen laughed as he flew directly towards Linley. He was trapped in the Blackstone space, but thanks to Gislazen's powerful body, his speed was still astonishing. Linley didn't retreat either, excitedly charging forward to meet him. When drawing nearer to Gislazen, Linley felt a freezing aura invade his body, so cold that Linley was astonished. Bang! Neither of the two dodged. Their fists slammed against each other, and where their fists passed, space itself directly collapsed. Linley couldn't help but fly backwards after the collision. "Haha," the Patriarch immediately chased after him. Swoosh! Linley immediately retreated. "Kid, don't run!" the Patriarch shouted. Within the Blackstone space, although the Patriarch was still very fast, he was still slightly slower than the dragon-formed Linley. Linley, relying on his speed, was dodging by relying on his speed, occasionally unleashing a powerful punch or kick. Whap! Bang! Boom! One enormous, world-shaking vibration after another. These vibrations attracted quite a few spectators from the gorge, and this battle between Linley and the Patriarch caused them to stare, slack-jawed. Every single exchange of blows caused space to collapse. If these blows had landed on them, how many of them could withstand it? Linley and Gislazen finally came to a halt. "Haha, Linley, your material attack is now at Blue's level, at least." Gislazen was very satisfied. But Linley discovered that just now, when he was exchanging blows with the Patriarch, even though the Patriarch was using only half of his might, he was still able to fight the Patriarch to a standstill. "Patriarch, your body is far more powerful than mine. How is it that your attack?" Linley didn't understand. The Patriarch, in terms of profound mysteries, shouldn't be weaker than him. This is a difference in the laws. Gislazen said resignedly. "I primarily train in the elemental laws of water. The defense of the elemental laws of water isn't bad, but its ability to unleash power isn't that great." Linley nodded as well. Of the elemental laws of water, only the profound mysteries of ice allowed one to use one's physical strength. In terms of physical strength, I'm no weaker than the Patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan. But if we were competing in power attacks, he vastly outstrips me. This is because he trains in the laws of the earth." Gislazen said. Linley laughed. The laws of the earth even had the specialized profound mysteries of strength. Thus, it was only natural that those who trained in the laws of the earth were able to easily bring out the power of their bodies. Every single law had its own areas of specialization. The four edicts, as well, had their own differences. The elemental laws of water had superb defenses, with exceedingly strong defense against both soul attacks as well as material attacks. The elemental laws of fire, by contrast, was different. It was weak in defense, but specialized in offense. The edicts of fate, meanwhile, specialized in the soul, while having some deficiencies on the material side. It was hard to be truly perfect. "The power of your fists is already very great. It even poses a bit of a threat to me," Gislazen praised. "In the past, your fleeing abilities were excellent. But now, you will pose a great threat to your foes." Linley knew very well that when he clashed fists with the Patriarch, in truth, Linley's own firmament splitter had ablated much of the force of each of the Patriarch's punches. Only an extremely small amount of power remained from the patriarch's punches. Otherwise, each blow from the patriarch would have been able to easily smash Linley's fist. Similarly, in receiving each blow of Linley's, the patriarch had to rely on his profound mysteries to ablate the force. Otherwise, it would have been like their first exchange, with the results being shattered draconic scales and a hint of blood. Even someone like you, patriarch, with such terrifyingly strong defense, was injured. How can ordinary 7-star fiends resist it? Linley laughed. In the past, Linley, thanks to his Blackstone space, was very proficient in fleeing. His attacks, however, were far weaker than those which 7-star fiends normally possessed. However, the situation now was different. Even if that elder below once again encountered Linley, it would be very hard for him to win. Deep within the Skirite Mountains, Linley, Delia, and Bibi were at the edges of a cliff. Above the edge of the cliff, there was a large metallic life form in the shape of a black phoenix. Delia, I haven't accompanied you on a single trip since arriving in the clan. This time, I definitely will accompany you. Linley held Delia's hand. They had agreed that once he fused the profound mysteries, the two would go on a trip together. Delia couldn't help but reveal a smile of true happiness. Right. This is our first trip. We've been here at the clan for almost 6 centuries now, but I barely noticed anything. I wonder how Sasha and Taylor are doing. Taylor. Linley couldn't help but think of his children. However, Linley still felt that the decision he had made that year was wise. The infernal realm truly was too dangerous. Wharton and Taylor, back at the Yulon continent, would at least be able to enjoy peaceful lives? Elder Linley. A soft voice rang out. Linley turned to look. The person who had come was Elder Twila Tewala of the Azure Dragon clan. Elder Twila was a very good-tempered person who had never before entered Bloodbath Gorge. Not only was he not strong enough, he also preferred hiding like a turtle. Linley actually felt very positively towards Twila. Twila, at least, wasn't as sinister and vicious as Emmanuel and Foreign. Elder Twila, you are the escort this time. Linley laughed. Right. Twila laughed so hard, his eyes creased into slits. Then I'll be troubling you to protect us this time, Elder Twila. I'm going to Mirror City on this trip as well. Linley laughed. A look of delight and joy immediately appeared on Twila's face. Elder Linley, you are going as well? Haha, this is wonderful. With the two of us present, even if anything dangerous appears on this journey, we won't have anything to fear. Linley laughed, then nodded. Oh, Elder Twila, Elder Linley, you are here as well. A familiar voice rang out. Linley turned to look. The person who had just arrived was Foreign. Foreign's golden eyebrows raised up, and then he laughed. This time, Elder Twila is the escort, right? Twila nodded. Right. Elder Linley is going to Mirror City this time as well. Oh. Foreign nodded. Then, Elder Twila, Elder Linley, have a safe journey. However, I imagine that with both of you present, there's no way anything untoward will happen. Elder Twila, let's go. Linley couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Foreign. For some reason, Linley always felt as though there was something in Foreign's gaze that made him feel uncomfortable. Elder Twila nodded in acknowledgement towards Foreign, and then flew alongside with Linley into the metallic life form, entering it. Quite a few people were hurriedly flying into the metallic life form. As for Foreign, he just stood there at the cliff, looking upwards at the metallic life form, watching until it flew away. Humph. This Linley remained so brash. Foreign's face sank, his heart filled with rage. He had always viewed Linley with some disfavor. As he saw it, in their clan, only the second and third generation members of the clan were the noble figures of it. Even if Foreign's mother didn't want to use the ancestors' Azure Dragon Ring, he, Foreign, should be the one using it. What was Linley? Foreign's son, Emmanuel, had lost his most powerful divine clone, and would never be able to advance again. He wanted to act against Linley, but, the four clan leaders had ordered that Linley not be required to carry out any missions. Foreign's heart had been smoldering with rage this entire time without any place to let loose. The more time passed, the angrier he became. Going to Mere City, et. Foreign's gaze was growing cold. Humph. Then I'll let the forces of the 8 great clans deal with you. When you die, you'll be able to kill a few of their people as well. It won't be a waste at all. Sadly, others will have to accompany you to the grave as well. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 40, Betrayal. The Skirite Mountains. In the ground beneath the palace where Foreign lived. A dark, lightless underground hall. The hall was chilly and forbidding. Currently, the only person within it was Foreign. Foreign was seated upon the throne in the hall, slouched over it like a beast in ambush, his eyes flashing with dim light, thinking thoughts only he knew. Inform the forces of the 8 great clans. Although Foreign did want Linley dead and to have the 8 great clans do it, it was nothing more than a thought. As he seriously considered it, however, he began to hesitate. This was because the only way to let the forces of the 8 great clans know was to inform them. As for the act of informing them, there was no way someone else could carry out this task, nor could anyone else be allowed to know of it. This was because this act would be considered a betrayal of the clan, a grave crime. Foreign, as an elder, was confident that he would be able to easily pass this information regarding Linley to the 8 great clans. If it were to leak out that he had done so, however, he, Foreign, would never have a place again amongst the 4 divine beasts clan. Betrayal of the clan is punishable by execution of all bodies. Foreign remembered this punishment very clearly. For the sake of taking revenge upon Linley, to take such a great risk, is it worth it? Foreign wanted to do it, but he still hesitated. Without question, Foreign was deeply proud of the fact that he was a descendant of the 4 divine beasts clan. He wouldn't betray the clan. But he also wanted to kill Linley and worry about the consequences later. The Azure Dragon ring belonged to our ancestor. This Linley, of a generation that is so many times removed from us, by what right does he hold it? Foreign's eyes were cold. Jealousy constricted his heart, causing him to dislike Linley all the more. If Linley is permitted to continue to grow, there will come the day when he will be riding on my head. Foreign still clearly remembered the conversation he had with his mother, the Grand Elder. That time, the 4 clan leaders had ordered that Linley was to no longer participate in Bloodbath Gorge missions. Foreign was puzzled, and so later on, he went by himself to speak with the Grand Elder to ask her about this in detail, to try and understand why the clan leaders had made this decision. The Grand Elder didn't want to discuss the Redbud Sovereign, and so this is what she had said to Foreign. Foreign, are you aware that Linley is just a god? A god who has the power of a 7-star fiend. When he becomes a high god, how powerful do you think he will be? He is the future hope of our clan. He can't be put in danger for now. Foreign, upon hearing the Grand Elder's explanation, was shocked. He had always believed that Linley was hiding his ability, but unexpectedly, Linley actually really was just a god. Within that dark, cold, underground hall, Foreign suddenly stood up, his gaze cold and sinister. In a low voice, he said, "This Linley is already a 7-star fiend. If this continues, once he becomes a high god, he will definitely become a trump card of our clan. His status will be even higher than mine, and he'll be riding on my head. Can it be that in the future, I'll have to forever watch him act so arrogantly in front of me?" When Foreign imagined how glorious and influential Linley would be in the future, the look on Foreign's face became all the uglier. "No." Foreign bellowed in a growling voice. "Absolutely not. Be beneath him for the rest of my life? I'd rather die. Linley must die." He must. Foreign's body was trembling slightly. Right. I'm just getting rid of Linley. I'm not destroying the clan. This can't be considered betraying the clan. It can't. Also, I'm not personally killing him, I'm just letting the 8 great clans kill him. Linley can be considered to have died in service to the clan, battling the 8 great clans. That Azure Dragon Ring. Foreign couldn't help but frown. If Linley dies, wouldn't that mean that the Azure Dragon Ring would end up in the hands of the 8 great clans? Foreign was rather worried. The Azure Dragon Ring was, after all, a precious treasure of the clan. No. It's fine. It'll only be Linley's most powerful clone that dies. The other clones will remain alive in the Skirite Mountains. Even if the 8 great clans acquire the Azure Dragon Ring, they won't be able to bind it. Foreign convinced himself. Afterwards, when I have the chance, I'll seize it back. And what's more, Linley's death won't have a major impact on the clan. Our 4 Divine Beasts clan was in a position of weakness to begin with. At most, we'll just stay in the Skirite Mountains. Our clan won't be destroyed. After frantic pondering, Foreign finally came to a decision. A clan with Linley in it is a place I cannot live in, no matter how powerful the clan is. A clan without Linley in it, no matter how weak, is a place I can live comfortably. Foreign quirked his lips. He had already made up his mind. Whoosh! Foreign's cloak fluttered as he walked out from his underground hall. He had already decided on what he was going to do. A shadow appeared out of nowhere in the mountain villages, solidifying into a Foreign's figure. However, this was just a divine clone of Foreign's. Foreign let out a low chuckle, then his appearance changed, from that of a golden-haired old man to a bald youth. Foreign, in his disguise as a bald youth, flew directly outwards. Rumble, the waters of the river roiled about, and the bald youth Foreign stood there, hovering in mid-air, sweeping the area below with his icy gaze. In a low voice, he said, "Men of the 8 great clans, come out." On the predetermined routes, the people who were hidden belonged to either the intelligence networks of the 4 Divine Beasts clan or of the 8 great clans. Foreign knew exactly who his own clan's agents were and where they were. If someone was present who didn't belong to the 4 Divine Beasts clan, then naturally they belonged to the enemy. "Who are you?" a low voice transmitted down from below the river. "Remember this. An elder Linley of the Azure Dragon clan has already mounted an azure, phoenix-shaped metallic life form, and is heading to Mir City. If you want to kill him, then seize this opportunity. There's another elder traveling with him." Although the metallic life form was in the shape of a black phoenix when they left, Elder Foreign knew that each time, when it headed out, the metallic life form would change to a different color and appearance. And so, Elder Foreign had investigated in advance. This time, the transformation would be to the appearance of an azure phoenix. At the same time, Foreign waved his hand, and a crystal ball fell down from the skies. In this crystal ball, there is stored the appearances of Linley's wife Delia, as well as his good friend, Bibi. When the crystal ball fell to the surface of the water, a ray of azure energy appeared, wrapping around the crystal ball and pulling it underwater. Foreign, seeing this, smiled coldly, then turned and flew away at high speed. Long after Foreign left, a green-haired figure emerged from the surface of the river. Elder Linley of the Azure Dragon clan. A look of disbelief was on the face of this intelligence agent. "I didn't expect I'd be able to render such a meritorious deed today." The 8 great clans had issued the order to find and kill Linley long ago. Naturally, they had ordered their intelligence agents to be on the lookout for him as well. However, all these years, there had been no one who was successful in locating him. The news from the intelligence agent came very quickly. That very day, the 8 great clans were made aware of this, and immediately, the leaders of the 8 great clans were all excited. None of them had expected this news to come so suddenly. After a discussion, This mission was assigned to the Edric clan and 3 other clans. The 8 great clans were, after all, separately located at 2 different sides of Indigo Prefecture. The 4 clans on the west were the Edric clan, who had come from the higher plane of life, the Vena clan from the divine plane of wind, the Dean clan from the divine plane of earth, and the Rainales clan, native to the infernal realm. The western borders of Indigo Prefecture. The Edric clan and the other 3 clans were gathered together. Below the main palace, there were 8 figures dressed in grey robes. Although this Linley is only a god, he has the power of a 7-star fiend. In a few short missions, he has caused our 8 great clans to lose multiple 7-star fiends. A graceful, gentle voice came from a handsome, rather elfin-looking man who stood within the hall. His long green hair fell to his waist, and his eyes seemed to glow like stars. This was Patriarch Edric, in the flesh. He had led his clan here from the higher plane of life. It was he who had founded this clan. He isn't a major threat to us yet, but if a few more years pass and he becomes a high god, then it will be terrible. Thus, the 8 of you must execute this Linley, no matter what the cost. The voice was as gentle as ever. Yes, Patriarch. Outside the main hall, 2 handsome grey-robed men bowed, while the other 6 grey-robed men hurriedly followed. Within the hall, another Patriarch said calmly, "Here are 3 drops of Sovereign's might. Of the 8 of you, Elders Abu Jabuleddin, the strongest, will naturally carry 1. As for the other 2, Elders Tempa Tenpu and Nice Nis, I will carry them." Yes. The 3 immediately bowed respectfully. Of the 3 men, 1 was of the elfin-looking race. Remember, you must be successful in this endeavor. Even if you have to spend all 3 drops of Sovereign's might. Even if all 8 of you have to die. You must kill Linley. Another voice, a forceful, hard one, rang out. Yes. The 8 elders below couldn't help but feel their hearts tighten. Although they knew that this target of theirs, Linley, was just a 7-star fiend who was accompanied by a single other 7-star fiend, and that given the power the 8 of them possessed, killing Linley shouldn't be a problem, hearing the words from the patriarchs, they couldn't help but feel the pressure. Go, then. Move quickly, so that you might arrive at Mir earlier. The gentle voice said. The 8 grey-robed elders bowed fractionally, then immediately left. Within the hall, the 4 patriarchs began to chat amongst themselves. This is an excellent opportunity. Failure is not an option. Only after we kill that Linley will we be able to relax slightly. I refuse to believe that the 4 Divine Beasts clan will be able to produce yet another genius who has the potential to become a high god paragon. Don't worry. These 8 elders are the elites which we have selected from our 4 clans. Linley will unquestionably die. 8 mighty elders, equipped with 3 drops of Sovereign's might. Even if I had to face them, I wouldn't dare to resist head-on. The metallic life form in the shape of an azure phoenix was currently soaring through the horizons. Within this metallic life form, Linley and Delia were currently holding hands, seated in front of a window, staring at the outside through the translucent metal. We've flown for so long. We should arrive at Mir City soon. Linley laughed. Delia looked at the window, carefully inspecting the outside area. I came here last time. If I remember correctly, we should arrive at Mir City in half an hour. And then, Delia glanced at Linley, saying with resignation, Elder Twila really is cautious. He insisted on you changing your appearance. Linley currently had a beard, and even his height had been reduced slightly. Linley chuckled. It's not as bad for you, but for us elders, our enemies generally know exactly what we look like. Although the chances of encountering them are low, it's always better to be careful. What, do you feel uncomfortable, seeing me like this? Linley laughed and asked. Delia shook her head, then closed her eyes. Even with my eyes closed, I can still sense your aura. How could I feel uncomfortable? Linley laughed. On the way over, Linley and Delia enjoyed a quiet, calm life as a couple. Soon, Linley and Delia saw an ancient city appear in the distance, and an endless flow of people entering and exiting the gates of the city. "Wow, we finally made it." Bibi was the first to jump up, sprinting outside. Linley and Delia stood up together, following their clansmen out of the metallic life form. They followed Elder Twila towards the gates of Mir City. Because Linley was a fiend, he didn't have to pay the city entrance fee. "It's been so many years since I've seen Tarasi, Dylan, and the others." Linley laughed as he strode into the city. But what he didn't notice was that not far away, there were people maintaining a non-stop watch on the city gates. The arrival of the metallic life form of the Azure Dragon clan, in particular, caused these people to grow excited. "The Azure Dragon clan's metallic life form has arrived. Have you found Linley?" "We haven't. We haven't seen anything either." "I haven't seen Linley, but I saw that Delia and Bibi. They have a man next to them. He looks like a god." "That should be Linley." "A god? Then that should be him." The intelligence agents of the 8 great clans conversed amongst themselves through divine sense, having already located Linley's group. There was no way they could be certain of the route the Azure Dragon clan's metallic life form would take. The intelligence agents of the 8 great clans were unable to find out, and so they had to wait at the gates of Mir City, like waiting for a rabbit to fall into their trap. After all, sooner or later, Linley's group would have to arrive at Mir City. Now that they entered the city, there was naturally no way for them to do anything. But when Linley's group exited to return to the 4 Divine Beasts clan, the 8 great clans would be able to make their move. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 41, A Mysterious Visitor. On the wide streets, people were coming to and fro. Within the city, battle of any kind was absolutely forbidden. It didn't matter if you were a member of a strange race, and it didn't matter if were a high god or were a demigod. Here, you could comfortably, peacefully enjoy life, without any fear or danger. "I haven't gone to a city a single time ever since the return to the clan." Linley looked at the 2 sides of the street, at the various stores. "Boss, the city is far more interesting than the mountains. There's many places for entertainment, and also many places for watching scryer recordings." "Boss, last time, when watching scryer recordings in the city, I discovered," Bibi's eyebrows were dancing animatedly as he spoke, and at this point, he switched to divine sense. "There was one scryer recording that was of the battle at Malugo Island between you and those many island warriors, as well as a scryer recording of the battle against the red-robed elder afterwards," Bibi said. "Places for watching scryer recordings." Linley was rather surprised. The Bagshaw clan considered some precious scryer recordings to be treasures. "How are the scryer recordings, in those places within the city where they are available for viewing? Are there many recordings of experts doing battle?" Linley asked. "Not many. Although there's quite a few high god battles, the skill level is roughly on par with the arena at Malugo Island. Occasionally, there will be a battle at high skill levels, but the price for watching those is quite high as well." Bibi was rather unhappy. "Boss, when they show the scryer recording of your battle at Malugo Island, they should give you a share of the money." Linley began to laugh loudly. The nearby Delia began to laugh as well. Bibi's words are well spoken. "They are releasing those scryer recordings without your permission." Delia, Bibi, and Linley chatted about scryer recordings while walking. Moments later, from up ahead, Twila and the others turned around and started walking towards Linley. Elder Twila sent through divine sense, "Elder Linley, we'll stay here in Mir City for roughly a month. A month from today, we will head out once more to the Skirite Mountains. During this month, Elder Linley, you can roam around in the city as you please. Remember, 1 month. If you miss it, then Elder Linley, if you want to return, you'll have to wait for the next group. Or go back by yourself. Don't worry. I know. Linley nodded. Elder Twila, please don't mind us, go do what you want to do. After walking for a while further, Linley's group separated from Twila and the others, and then Linley, Delia and Bibi headed directly for Tarasi and Dylan's residence. When Tarasi, Dylan and the others had arrived in Mir City, Bibi and Delia had been present as well. Naturally, they knew exactly where Tarasi and the others were living. Boss, Tarasi and the others purchased a large estate. They spent over 1 billion inkstones. Bibi said hurriedly. As for Dylan, Caesar, O'Brien and the others, they are living there as well. Hearing this, Linley nodded. Tarasi's group didn't lack for money. It was right that they should buy a large estate in the city. As he thought about purchasing property, Linley couldn't help but begin to laugh. Bibi, Delia, do you still remember that year when we first went to Royal Wing City? That time, when we saw those houses, the cheapest one was around 60 or 70 million, right? Back then, we were shocked when we saw those prices. Delia and Bibi, hearing this, began to laugh as well. The cheapest houses in Royal Wing City were around 8 million, but people would seize the opportunity to buy houses like those. Normally speaking, empty houses would be worth nearly 100 million. Generally speaking, only some fairly powerful high gods were able to buy these things. At that time, I thought that only the true elites of the infernal realm would be able to buy houses in cities. But now, it seems, Linley shook his head and laughed. Indeed, those capable of buying houses in cities could be considered elites. But these so-called elites were only elite in comparison to the many ordinary deities of the infernal realm. The true experts of the infernal realm, such as 6-star fiends and 7-star fiends, primarily lived outside of the cities, taking over a piece of land for themselves. They would build their own castles and collect a large group of subordinates. Although it was safe inside the cities, life wasn't filled with as many challenges and as much excitement. Linley, we are here at Tarasi's residence. Delia pointed towards the front, and Linley followed Delia's pointing finger as he looked. He saw a large estate, hundreds of meters long. Within a city, where every inch of ground was utterly preciously, purchasing such an enormous estate for the price of just over 1 billion inkstones was a fairly good bargain. Within the residence, in the front courtyard, there was a round pool of water, by the side of which there were trees, shrubs, grass, and flowers. A cobbled, wide stone floor that was shaped in a curve led from the gate to a residential area. Elder brother, why are you dawdling in the room? Hurry up. Currently, a muscular youth was shouting from below the residence. This was Dylan's third son, Clearvox. He had gone with his elder brother that year along with Dylan to the infernal realm. As for his second brother, he had been killed on the 11th floor of the necropolis of the gods by those abyssal blade demons. Coming. A figure jumped down from the floor above, moving like lightning. But right at that moment. Bang. Bang. A loud, world-shaking knocking sound, joined by a thundering shout, "Hey, open up! Clearvox, hurry up and open the door. It's Bibi." The two siblings glanced at each other, then ran over. Rumble, a rumbling sound, followed by the gate suddenly swinging open. There were 3 figures standing behind it. Linley, Cleo and Clearvox couldn't help but feel shocked. This was Linley's first time visiting them in 5 centuries. And then, Clearvox excitedly called out, "Father, Uncle Tarasi, Linley has arrived." Linley came. From the distant residence, multiple figures immediately flew over, with the first one being Caesar. Linley, upon seeing his fellows from his homeland, laughed and greeted them, directly embracing Caesar in a tight hug. "Caesar, long time no see. It has indeed been a long time. Elder Linley has a high rank, great power and countless responsibilities each day, and thus has forgotten us minor figures." Caesar teased deliberately. "Linley, seeing Caesar be so irreverent, couldn't help but feel happy. Caesar had finally returned to the way he had been in the Yulan continent, irreverent and uninhibited. It seemed as though the effects of what had happened in Maluto Island were wearing off. Linley, Taurasi, Dylan, and O'Brien came to welcome him as well. Linley saw that Olivier wasn't amongst them, but there was a golden-haired beauty. Linley stared in surprise at the beauty who was at the back of the group. She is. Taurasi laughed devilishly. Linley, she's one of us. Why don't you have a guess as to whose wife she is? Wife? Linley was stunned. Hey, someone's gotten married? That hadn't happened last time when I was here. Bibi stared as well. Taurasi began to laugh loudly. When marrying a wife, of course you have to be fast. Have a guess as to whose she is. Linley, Delia, and Bibi all turned to stare towards Caesar, Dylan, O'Brien, and Clairvox. Could it be Clairvox? Bibi was the first to guess. Or O'Brien's. Wait, that can't be right, O'Brien has that affair going on with the high priest. The war god O'Brien couldn't help but feel awkward. Immediately, Taurasi, Caesar, and the others all began to laugh. Dylan said hurriedly, all right, enough of that. Linley, Delia, I'll make the introductions. This is my wife, Kamina Kamina. Mr. Linley, they've often spoken about you to me. Kamina said with a laugh. Greetings, Kamina. Linley and Delia both greeted Kamina as well. Linley's arrival caused the normally tranquil lives of Taurasi, Dylan, and the others to be slightly disrupted. Taurasi and the others immediately prepared a sumptuous welcome banquet that very day. Linley thus began to chat at the banquet table with Taurasi and the others regarding the affairs of the clan. After knowing what had changed within the clan during the past 5 centuries, especially the viciousness of the battles that had occurred, Taurasi, Dylan, and the others couldn't help but sigh. Kamina was truly shocked. She was just an ordinary god, and in the past, although she had heard Dylan say a few things regarding Linley, it had always felt like hearing stories regarding legendary figures. Right now, when she heard from Linley himself speaking of the deaths of so many 7-star fiends, there was a different feeling. Those were 7-star fiends. Generally speaking, only the master of a city was a 7-star fiend. But the ancient 4 divine beasts clan and those 8 great clans who had come from all the various planes, in their battles against each other, had lost one 7-star fiend after another. Did you just say that Olivier left? Linley said, surprised. Right. Taurasi nodded. Perhaps he's not accustomed to the peaceful life within cities. He went to accept fiend missions. Generally speaking, he'll perhaps make a trip back here every 10 years or every few decades. Fiend missions. Linley nodded slightly. At the same time, he suddenly remembered, it seemed as though he was only a 1-star fiend. Although he had taken on 2 missions, neither had been successful. Olivier, in the Yulan continent, had also desired to live an exciting life in the infernal realm. Thus, he was the first to come here. His temperament makes him unsuited for living forever in a city. Linley sighed. Suddenly. Bang. Suddenly, the sound of knocking against the door rang out yet again. Hey, someone is knocking at this time of the day? Everyone's here though. Nobody's outside. Taurasi was puzzled. Can it be that Olivier is back? It can't be such a coincidence, can it? Linley laughed. Could it be that as soon as they discussed Olivier, he would arrive? Clairvox, go get the door. Taurasi said, and Clairvox immediately rose and ran outside. Hey, hurry up and open the door. A deep voice came from beyond the door, the voice shocking Linley. This was actually the voice of Fusro, the person who had saved him. Linley was very surprised to hear him. Why had Fusro come here? Who are you? Clairvoz's voice rang out. Clearvox didn't recognize Fusro at all. As for Tarasi, Dylan, and the others, they quickly left the courtyard, seeing the big, red-haired man standing far away outside the gate. But they didn't recognize Fusro. Haha, Fusro. Boss, it's Fusro. BB called out, and Linley walked over as well, laughing, Clearvox. He's my friend. Linley discovered that Fusro actually had two subordinates trailing him. Kid, the first time we meet we are strangers, but the second time, we'll be acquaintances. In the future, you'll know who I am. Fusro slapped Clearvox on the shoulders, causing Clervos's body to sway. Laughing loudly, Fusro walked in. Linley, I knew you were here. Linley, hearing this, was shocked. He had changed his appearance when he had arrived. How could Fusro have known he was here? Don't be so surprised. The governor of Mir City is my friend. Fusro laughed. When Delia accompanied these people to buy an estate, I arranged for people to pay attention. Linley now understood. So they had seen Delia and Bibi, and thus had been able to guess at his presence. But Linley was still astonished at Fusro's connections. He actually was a friend of the governor of Mir City. However, it wasn't me who discovered you this time. Fusro laughed. It was another friend of mine who told me that you had arrived at Mir City. Another friend? Linley was surprised. Fusro nodded. Right. That friend of mine is extremely strong. My friend knows that I'm familiar with you, and so asked me to come. My friend's wish is very simple, to meet with Bibi. Linley frowned. Fusro was very powerful, and thus his friends were no doubt impressive as well. One friend was the governor, while the other friend had actually discovered that Linley had arrived in Mir City. And this other friend wanted to see Bibi? Meet me. Bibi was shocked. Who is this person? Linley asked. Fusro shook his head and laughed. I can't really say. If you want to ask, wait for Bibi to come back, then ask him. Right, do you agree for Bibi to make this trip? To where? Is it within the city or outside? Although Linley trusted Fusro, he was still worried about Bibi's safety. Don't worry. It is inside the city. Fusro laughed. Linley finally relaxed. Not even 7-star fiends would dare to do anything inside the city. After all, the rule that no battle was permitted within cities was a rule that was shared throughout the infernal realm, a rule set by sovereigns. Who would dare violate it? Bibi, what do you think? Linley turned to look at Bibi. Bibi's eyes were gleaming, and he laughed. I very much want to see which mysterious person wishes to meet with me. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 42, Nobody There. Fusro laughed and said, since Bibi agrees to meet that friend of mine, then how about this? You can follow my two servants. They'll take you there. Fusro looked towards Bibi, who was rather surprised. Right now? Of course. That friend of mine is currently waiting for you. Fusro said. Boss, then I'll head out now. Bibi turned to look towards Linley. Although Linley was puzzled as to who this mysterious figure was, since the meeting spot was within the city, Linley felt very much at ease. He thus nodded and laughed, go quickly and return quickly. Fusro is intentionally hiding that person's identity. I'll be waiting for you to tell me who it is. Right. Bibi nodded solemnly, and then glanced sideways at Fusro. I'm not like some people, trying to act so mysterious. You punk. Fusro couldn't help but begin to laugh. Bibi strode outside while saying, the two of you, hurry up and lead the way. I have no idea where this mysterious person who wants to meet me is living. Fusro's two servants immediately sped up the pace, leading Bibi away. Linley watched as Bibi departed, the questions in his heart growing more and more numerous. Fusro. Delia chuckled as she looked at Fusro. Since Bibi's already gone, there's no need for you to keep the secret any longer. Who is this mysterious friend of yours? Linley turned to look towards Fusro as well, awaiting Fusro's answer. But Fusro just laughed and didn't respond. Do I know this person? Linley asked. Fusro paused a moment, then said, You shouldn't know this person. Linley looked at Fusro, puzzled. Shouldn't know this person? Knowing was knowing. Not knowing as not knowing. But Fusro's words were so hesitant. Linley, has it been 10,000 years since you were born? Fusro asked. 10,000 years. Linley couldn't help but laugh. Up till now, I've only trained for a bit over 1,000 years. I'm still quite a ways off from my second 1,000 years. So short. Fusro was rather surprised, and then he said, Then I'm certain that regardless as to whether or not you've heard my friend's name, you definitely haven't met my friend in person. This is because, 10,000 years ago, this friend of mine left your Yulon continent and came to the infernal realm. Linley and Delia glanced at each other, astonished. A person from the Yulon continent? Someone from the Yulon continent. Tarasi, Dylan, Caesar, and the others, standing behind Linley, were surprised as well. Fusro, seeing the looks of astonishment and confusion on their faces, laughed delightedly. Haha, you can keep guessing. I refuse to tell, when BB comes back, you'll know. But I imagine that it'll be very hard for you to guess. Linley couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Fusro really did like to toy with people. Linley, how long will you be here? Fusro suddenly asked. A month. Linley said. Oh, so long? Then I'll stay here for 2 days. If you have any free time, you can talk to me about the affairs of your 4 Divine Beasts clan. I'm very curious about your 4 Divine Beasts clan. Fusro chortled. And just like that, that very day, Fusro moved in. Fortunately, the estate which Tarasi's group had purchased was large and had enough rooms. Night. Linley and Delia were still lying on the bed. After a passionate session, the night was now quiet, and the two of them, husband and wife, began to discuss that mysterious person. I had thought BB would be able to return the same day. I didn't expect him to take so long. Linley stroked Delia's hair, laughing as he spoke. Perhaps BB, after meeting that mysterious person, not only chatted but also had some other matters to take care of. Delia said. This mysterious person actually came from the Yulon continent 10,000 years ago. We've never met this person before. I truly wonder who it is. At first, I thought it was Lord Beirut. Afterwards, when Fusro said that I had never met this person before, I no longer had any idea who it is. Linley was still puzzled. And then Linley laughed and lowered his head, looking towards Delia. What is it? Delia had the feeling that something was strange in Linley's gaze. The two of us have just a pair of children. Although the 4 Divine Beasts clansmen have very few progeny, I refuse to believe that we won't have a third child. Linley laughed softly, and then lowered his head to kiss Delia. MMMPH. Delia's face flushed slightly. She couldn't help but give Linley a glare. And then she stretched out her jade-like arms, embracing Linley's neck. The two flipped over and entangled each other. Who would have imagined that even by the time Fusro had left, BB still hadn't returned? Linley couldn't help but be rather nervous. How could a meeting with someone end up taking 3 days? Linley asked Fusro, but Fusro just told him not to worry. After waiting 5 days. These scryer recordings I saw today were excellent. The ways in which those experts from the higher plane of life do battle are quite peculiar. The ways in which they fly and the poses they adopt when attacking all seem so beautiful and alluring. Delia laughed as she praised. Linley nodded. Those in the higher plane of life primarily train in the edicts of life. Those attacks are so beautiful to behold, yet their power is so astonishing. While in Mere City, Linley and Delia would go wandering about in some of the more interesting parts of the city. It had to be said, that in Mere City, where so many people passed through, there really were many more interesting things than in the Skirite Mountains. Linley and Delia, laughing and chatting with each other, returned to their residence. Upon reaching the gate, Delia let out a sigh. I wonder if Bibi is back or not. This is the 5th day. Although Delia was often thinking about this, she still wasn't too worried. Firstly, Bibi was within the city and nothing would go wrong. Secondly, Linley and Bibi had a spiritual connection, and thus they could sense each other's locations. Linley just grinned, not saying anything as he looked towards the gate of the residence. His soul had sensed long ago that Bibi was within the estate. A jubilatory cry was heard. Boss! The gate swung open, and Bibi, wearing his straw hat, was standing right there in front of them, beaming towards Linley and Delia. Bibi's back. Delia was startled, and then she turned to glare at Linley. Linley had to have sensed Bibi's return, but he hadn't said a thing on the way back. Linley began to laugh loudly. Bibi, you really are something. When you went to meet with that mysterious figure, you ended up spending so much time. This is the 5th day. Linley laughed while walking with Delia into the estate. Within the estate, Tarasi, Dylan, Caesar, O'Brien, Kamina and the others were all present. Upon seeing Linley and Delia enter, Tarasi laughed loudly. Linley, you finally returned. We were asking Bibi who he had gone to visit, but he refused to tell us. He insisted on waiting until you were back and telling us all together. Bibi wrinkled his nose and snorted. Linley and Delia immediately laughed, walking over and sitting down. Linley looked towards Bibi. Bibi, stop teasing everyone. Just spit it out. If you don't tell them today, Tarasi, Dylan and the others will get angry. Tarasi and Dylan began to laugh as well. This was just a small matter, and they were simply curious. How could they actually grow angry? Fine, I'll tell. Bibi raised his head. This person originally came from our Yulon continent. We know this. It's precisely because this person is from the Yulon continent, that we are all curious. Tarasi immediately replied. Bibi stared at everyone, then said smugly, this mysterious person is, the wife of my grandpa Beirut. My grandma Carolina. Carolina. Linley immediately remembered that back in the Yulon continent, that year Bibi had indeed told him that Beirut's wife was Carolina. While at the Yulon continent, Linley had met Harvey, Hart, and Harry, the 3 brothers, but he had never met Carolina. When chatting with Harry and the others, Linley had heard that Carolina had long ago left the Yulon continent. It's her. Tarasi let out a sound of surprise, and then began to laugh loudly. I should have thought of her long ago. Lord Carolina is the wife of Lord Beirut. It's only natural that she comes to meet Bibi. Lord Carolina is the wife of Lord Beirut. O'Brien was rather surprised. When O'Brien and Caesar were born, Carolina had already left the Yulon continent. Naturally, they had never heard of this person. In fact, they didn't even know that she was Beirut's wife. My grandma Carolina is very formidable. Bibi said smugly. Bibi, why did Grandma Carolina seek you out this time? And it took so much time as well. Linley was still puzzled. She was helping my grandpa bring me something. Bibi chortled. The 5th soul slice fragment. Dylan, Tarasi, O'Brien, and the others had faces filled with puzzlement. But Delia and Linley were rather surprised. Bibi had spoken to them regarding the soul slice matter. Originally, it was because Bibi had absorbed those 4 soul slices, which contained memories of souls which held insights on profound mysteries, which was why he had been able to learn 4 types of profound mysteries in such a short period of time. In recent years, Grandpa finally helped me find the last one. Bibi said smugly. Boss, you need to work hard. I might become a high god before you. Linley chuckled. By now, he had already mastered a fifth profound mystery of the laws of the earth, with one remaining. He trained extremely quickly in water as well, and had already mastered four. Haha, who knows which one of us will be high god first? Linley laughed. What are you two talking about? What's a soul fragment? Dylan, Caesar, and the others were all puzzled. If a soul was shattered, it would be destroyed. How could there be soul fragments? What were soul fragments used for? They couldn't understand at all. Time flew by very quickly. Life in Mir City was very relaxed, and in the blink of an eye, a month passed. On the day of departure, the Azure Dragon clan's forces had already gathered outside the city. Everyone had arrived very early. "Milord, the forces of the Azure Dragon clan are over there. Do you see Linley and his family?" "No. Most likely, they'll arrive soon. The Azure Dragon clan's people are still gathering. Hurry up and notify the 8 elders. Let them make their preparations." "Don't worry, milord. The 8 elders already know of this. Once the Azure Dragon clan's forces head out, the 8 elders will be ready to strike at a moment's notice." "Good. The 8 elders care deeply about killing Linley. There can't be any mistakes made." An intelligence agent of the 8 great clans was currently monitoring the gathering of Azure Dragon clansmen. These intelligence agents had memorized the appearance of these Azure Dragon clansmen when they had passed through the city gates. Those ordinary clansmen hadn't changed their appearance. Thus, when gathering together, they were immediately recognized. Elder Twila, his appearance changed, was currently waiting impatiently. Every so often, he would look towards the city entrance. "What's going on with Linley? He still hasn't arrived." "Elder Twila." A high god subordinate of Twila sent through divine sense. "The other clansmen are all ready. We're only waiting for Elder Linley and his group of 3. What should we do?" "Wait here." Twila frowned. "No. Since Elder Linley's group hasn't come, they'll most likely go back with the next group, or perhaps by themselves. We don't need to concern ourselves." Twila immediately ordered, "Prepare to move out." Twila immediately produced his enormous metallic life form, in the shape of a black tiger, and the Azure Dragon clansmen immediately boarded. "Milord, the Azure Dragon clan is about to head out. Only that Linley, his wife, and his friend haven't appeared." "Still haven't appeared? Wait a while longer. That metallic life form will probably wait for some time before heading out." However, the black tiger-shaped metallic life form took the clansmen and left, not hesitating at all, immediately embarking and disappearing into the horizon. This sight caused quite a few intelligence agents to be stupefied. "Milord, now what? Linley's group of 3 truly has not arrived. There are 3 fewer people in that metallic life form than had arrived in the city." "3 fewer? Then it seems as though Linley's group of 3 has yet to leave. Hurry up and inform the 8 elders, et. Let the 8 elders rest for now, and continue to wait patiently." Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 43, Wade. Linley and his group of 3 hadn't departed, causing the intelligence agents of the 8 great clans to have wasted their efforts, and causing those 8 elders, who had been preparing for so long, to have become excited for nothing. Mir City. The residence of Tarasi and the others. "Tarasi, I'm afraid we'll have to disturb you for a while longer." Linley's face was covered in smiles. He couldn't help but glance at Delia. He had been planning to return to the clan, but the previous night, Delia had actually told him that she was pregnant. We were in the Skirite Mountains for so long without her becoming pregnant. Who would have expected that now, she would? Once Linley knew this news, he was unbelievably happy. Since Delia had become pregnant, Linley was no longer in a hurry to return to the Skirite Mountains. After all, in terms of living environment, Mir City was much habitable than the Skirite Mountains. The plan was to first let Delia rest here. After giving birth to their child, they could go back. Haha, you can stay here as long as you like. Tarasi was puzzled. But Linley, just yesterday, didn't you say that today was the day for you to head out? Why did you suddenly change your decision? Caesar, by Tarasi's side, looked towards Linley as well, puzzled. Delia's pregnant. Linley said happily. Delia, by his side, couldn't help but blush. Tarasi and Caesar immediately stared, and then began to laugh loudly. Haha, this is wonderful news. We have to celebrate. Tarasi said hurriedly. The news that Delia was pregnant caused everyone in the residence to be overjoyed. When Fusro came over, he discovered to his surprise that Linley actually hadn't left yet. When he asked, he learned about Delia being pregnant. He, too, was happy for Linley, and so the entire residence was filled with joyous sounds. With Delia pregnant, Linley spent every single day by her side, watching as her belly grew bigger by the day. He grew more and more excited, and every so often, he would press his ear against Delia's belly, listening to the sounds. When he drew near to Delia, Linley could even sense the blood pulsing through the veins of the unborn child, which seemed to reverberate slightly with his own lineage. "Milord, our people have discovered Linley's friend, Bibi, within Mir City. We've quietly tailed him and finally discovered Bibi's residence. Our brothers plotted and schemed, and finally discovered the estate where Linley and Delia are living in." Mir City was a large city with a circumference of 1,000 kilometers. But to deities, especially to the intelligence agents of the 8 great clans, who stayed in Mir City for a long time, it wasn't hard for them to find Bibi, given how often Bibi went out. Upon finding Bibi, given the abilities of the 8 great clans, finding Linley and Delia wasn't too hard. Excellent. Now that we've found their residence, everything else will be simple. Now, always have someone watching that place. Remember, you can't let Linley's group discover us. Whenever Linley heads out, immediately report it to us. Yes, milord. But, milord, what if Linley's group just remains in Mir City without leaving? What should we do? Then, fighting within the cities was forbidden. Even the 8 great clans wouldn't dare to violate this rule. We'll just watch for now. I refuse to believe Linley will remain forever in Mir City. As for if Linley will really stay there without coming out, the elders will decide what to do. The 8 great clans' intelligence agents continuously watched that residence. However, despite their careful attention, Linley just spent his time happily accompanying his wife, seemingly not intending to leave at all. Linley was seated outside, holding a cup of wine. He was rather rattled, occasionally turning to look back into the room. This was because Delia was in the room, and Delia was already close to the point of birth. Whew, Linley couldn't help but take a deep breath. He hadn't been as nervous as this, even when he was fighting against 7 star fiends. I wonder if it's a boy or a girl. I wonder if the child has been born yet or not. I wonder if Delia is. Countless thoughts flitted through Linley's mind in a jumbled fashion. The hand holding the wine cup was trembling slightly. Boss, it isn't as though you haven't had any experience. Still so nervous? Bibi, by his side, was snickering. Linley couldn't help but glance at him, then forced out a smile. Bibi, when one day you are about to become a father, you'll know. Each time you wait, the tension isn't any less than when battling against ultimate experts. While waiting outside, Linley felt as though his heart was tight against his chest. Next to him was O'Brien, Dylan, Tarasi, and the others. Even Fusro had come over today, and was chatting with the others while teasing Linley. Linley didn't spend any time chatting with them. His attention was focused on the room. Yaaaaaaaaaaaa. An ear-piercing infant's cry broke the silence of the entire estate. It was like a ray of sunlight flashing within Linley's mind, causing all the countless doubts and worries to vanish. At this moment, he had only a single thought. The child had been born. Whoosh! Linley charged towards the door, and at this moment, the door was opened. Dylan's wife, Kamina, laughed as she walked out. Linley, congratulations. Delia's given birth to a son. Linley, not caring whether it was a boy or a girl, immediately entered the room. Within the room, a faint sheen of perspiration could be seen on Delia's forehead. She was seated on the bed, cradling an infant. Seeing Linley enter, she immediately stood up, then walked over. Linley, look. He's very quiet. Just now, he was crying, but now he's calmer. Linley took a careful look at the infant in Delia's arms. That pouting face, that tiny body and head, he looked so similar to how Taylor and Sasha had been. Let me hold him. Linley's heart was beating rapidly. No matter how powerful an expert was, upon becoming a father and holding his son for the first time, he would feel excited, nervous, and agitated. Holding the infant in his arms, he could feel the slight weight of his son against him. Although infants were very light, especially to a powerful expert like Linley, to whom this sort of weight was nothing, Linley felt as though this light weight was pressing down against his heart. Son! My son! Linley couldn't help but shout in his heart, this is my son. Holding his son, Linley had that sensation of his blood being passed down, of life continuing. Linley, what's the child's name? Have you come to a decision? Delia said. We'll call him Wade. Linley looked dotingly at the child in his arms. Wade, Wade, say father. Linley said, gently stroking his son's little nose. The skin was so soft. But perhaps Linley hurt him as he touched him, as Wade, who had just stopped crying moments ago, began to bawl loudly again. Delia immediately stretched her arms out to take him back. He's just a newborn, and yet you want him to call you father. The child's crying already. Quick, let me hold him. It's fine. The son of Linley doesn't need to be pampered that much. Linley said. Let me hold him for a while longer. Holding his son Wade in his arms, Linley felt utter joy in his heart. The feeling of holding his son in his arms was even more exciting and happy for him than the feeling of holding a sovereign artifact. Seeing how reluctant Linley was to part from Wade, Delia couldn't help but laugh. Linley lowered his head to look at his son. He felt as though he could never get tired of looking at him. Why? Wade cried for a while, then stopped crying. His big guileless, pure eyes, containing no artifice at all, stared at Linley. This was the first man he had seen after his birth. He didn't know yet that this was his father. He was the son of Linley. It was guaranteed that his life would not be an ordinary one. Linley, why haven't you come out yet? Caesar's voice rang out. Boss, hurry up and carry your son out. We uncles want to hold him too. Bibi called loudly. At this moment, Linley and Delia, within the room, came to their senses. They couldn't help but grin at each other, then walked out while holding the child. As soon as they walked outside, Bibi, Clearvox, and the others all rushed forward. Lemme hold him. Bibi said jubilantly. Their son was born. Linley and Delia felt utter bliss as they played with their son. They were in no rush to return to the Skirite Mountains at all. But although they weren't in a rush, the intelligence agents of the 8 great clans, especially those 8 elders, were frantic. None of them had any idea how long Linley would stay here before returning. However, they obviously couldn't go and tell him to hurry up. They just had to watch as Linley spent every day enjoying his time with his son. "Milord, our men are always in wait and always watching. But it's been a year already. When will this come to an end?" The intelligence agents of the 8 great clans were watching day and night, not daring to slack off at all. Linley is currently holding that infant right now. Are we supposed to just watch and wait until the infant grows up to become an adult? Just watching every day was indeed tiring, especially since they didn't even know how long they would have to keep doing it. Don't be impatient. I've already reported this to the patriarchs, and the 8 patriarchs sent back a single word in response: wait. No matter what, we are not to arouse Linley's notice. He can't always stay in Mere City. There will be a day when he comes out. Yes, milord. The intelligence agents had no choice but to grit their teeth and keep watching. On the streets of Mere City, Linley and Delia were walking shoulder to shoulder, with their son Wade being taken care of by Kamina. The reason they had come out today was to buy some nutritious foodstuffs. Wade was still young. When he started to grow, he would need to eat many things. When we return later to the Skirite Mountains, there won't be so much food available for sale. Linley laughed. We should have bought enough this time. Of course we bought enough. These things we bought cost us tens of millions of inkstones. It's more than enough for Wade to eat for over 10 years. Delia laughed. Compared to Sasha and Taylor, the food which Wade will eat while growing up will be much better. Wade doesn't know that he has an older brother and sister right now. When he grows up and knows more, we'll tell him. Knowing that he had his son by his side, he felt full of energy in everything he did, be it training or eating. Just as Linley and Delia were chatting mentally on the way back, they suddenly saw someone. Linley stared, astonished, at a distant figure. It was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. All of the clansmen had emblems of the clan, and they could all sense each other's presence. This was why Linley sensed this person in front of him. In Mere City, Linley had already run into quite a few members of the Azure Dragon clan. But this was the first time Linley had run into someone he knew. Elder Linley. The other person had discovered Linley as well, and hurriedly reached out with divine sense. Elder Twila. Linley immediately responded with divine sense. Linley and Twila had both changed their appearances, but they looked exactly the same as they had when they last left. Naturally, the two could easily recognize each other. Twila smiled while walking over and saying through divine sense, Elder Linley, you didn't return with us last time. Did something happen? I'm truly sorry. I really didn't expect that in the month I had been at Mere City, my wife would become pregnant. Linley laughed while sending back. At that time, I came to the decision that I would return after my child was born. Ah! Congratulations, congratulations. Elder Twila hurriedly sent back. Linley was all smiles as well. Right. Elder Twila, are you escorting the metallic life form this time? Linley asked. The clan sends a batch every half year. It's only been a year and a half, but it's your turn again. Nothing for it? In the past 500 years, we've lost too many elders. The clan has too few elders now, and most have entered Bloodbath Gorge. Twila said helplessly. Thus, there are only a few elders on rotation for escorting the metallic life form. Linley now understood. Linley knew that the clan had suffered tremendous losses over the past 5 centuries. As for exactly how many elders had been lost, however, Linley had never asked in detail. However, in the first 200 years, they had lost 5 elders. Most likely, over 500 years, more than 10 elders had been lost. Twila, when will you head back? We were just preparing to head back ourselves. Let's go together. Linley laughed. Oh. We're heading out in 2 days. Twila was very happy as well. Elder Linley, if you head out with us, then it will be much safer with us having joined forces. Very well. We'll meet in 2 days at dawn. Linley said. Definitely. However, when the time comes, make sure you show up this time. Twila laughed. That won't happen again. Linley laughed. 2 days later. Dawn. The gates of the estate. Delia was holding little Wade, bidding farewell to Tarasi and the others, Linley and Bibi by her side. Tarasi, no need to send us off. Linley laughed. In the future, you must often come visit. I love this little Wade. Tarasi laughed. Bibi laughed as well. By the time you come again, Wade will be all grown up. After bidding farewell to their friends, Linley, Delia and Bibi took little Wade to head directly towards the gates of the city. This scene, in turn, was noticed by a figure located within a distant, tall building who was watching through a window. Linley's group seems to be preparing to head out. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 44, Catching a Ride. The Gates of Mir City. The intelligence station for the 8 great clans' intelligence agents. Milord, Linley's group of 3, along with an infant, have already headed out. They will reach the city gates soon. Oh! They even brought the infant out? It seems they really are prepared to leave the city. However, there's no rush. Let's take it slowly. After you see Linley's group reach the city gates, only then should you make the report to the 8 elders. The speaker was a seemingly honest-looking youth. This honest-looking youth was standing in front of a window, a casual look on his face as he glanced downwards. He could very clearly see the gates from his current position. A long time later, the pupils of the honest-looking youth contracted. Within his field of vision, amidst the massive, thronging crowds, Linley's group had appeared. Oh, Linley, Linley, Linley. You finally show yourself. I thought you'd end up spending millions of years in Mir City, but it seemed as though you decided to just spend a year or so. The honest-looking youth narrowed his eyes, a very innocent-looking smile appearing on his face. Quick! Spread this news to the elders. The honest-looking youth immediately sent through divine sense. Yes. In a mountain forest roughly 1,000 kilometers away from Mir City, there was a very ordinary stone house constructed there. This stone house was very wide, and it had 8 prayer mats within the building. 8 grey-robed men were seated in the meditative position on those prayer mats, quietly awaiting. It had been more than a year. They had brought with them a murderous intent as they had prepared to kill Linley. However, they had ended up waiting here the entire time. Slowly, their killing aura had decreased. If Linley doesn't want to leave the city, who knows how long it will take? 10 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. A grey-robed man with long black hair and a beard said, rather upset. Without a specific time frame, it would be easy for anyone to grow impatient while waiting. Tempa. A graceful voice rang out. The members of your Raynale's clan are still unable to be calm, it seems. The bearded grey-robed man let out a snort, saying nothing else. Someone is coming. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang out. As soon as the words finished, a figure flew in at high speed. This person was one of the intelligence agents assigned to this place, who would be able to bring news to the 8 elders at any time. 8 elders, Linley is leaving the city. An excited voice rang out. Boom. The 8 grey-robed figures immediately rose to their feet. Even the most stolid of the 8, their leader, Elder Zabu, revealed a look of joy on his face. He immediately said, Linley has finally shown himself. Everyone, remember, when attacking, immediately use your sovereign's might. We must use full force and immediately kill Linley. Outside Mir City, the Azure Dragon clan's clansmen were gathering together. Because of the clan seal, everyone could clearly sense everyone else. Elder Linley, you came fairly early today. Twila said through divine sense. Linley laughed and nodded. I was afraid that if I came late, Elder Twila, you would be angry with me. Twila's gaze swept towards Delia and the infant Wade in her arms, then he sent, Linley, this is your son, right? He's so pretty. When Wade was born, he looked like an old man. Linley said. When someone praised his son, he naturally would be pleased. Right. When are we heading out? Linley asked. Twila glanced around himself. From the looks of it, we are almost all here. Let's just wait a while longer. Right, Linley. Today, on our metallic life form, we have a very special guest. Oh, a special guest. Linley was rather surprised. Right. The Patriarch personally entrusted me with this task, ordering me to bring him to the Skirite Mountains. Twila laughed. Follow me. I'll introduce you to him. Linley, rather curious as to who this special guest was, followed Twila's lead. Linley saw that this special passenger was a seemingly skinny-looking youth with short golden hair, and a guileless smile on his face. However, when Linley looked at him, he had a familiar feeling. Ha ha, Linley. A clear and straightforward voice echoed in Linley's mind. Linley was shocked into awareness. This was Fusro. This voice was Fusro's voice. You. Linley stared in amazement at the skinny youth in front of him, and the skinny youth winked, sending mentally, there's nothing for it. Your patriarch said that due to my actions last time, the 8 great clans probably know my appearance by now. I have to change my appearance, even when I'm riding on your metallic life form. Geez, what's there to fear? Even if a few elders come, I'll dispose of them by myself. Linley couldn't help but laugh. Fusro was a sovereign's emissary. Linley had personally witnessed his might before, and even below, after using a drop of sovereign's might, was far from being a match for Fusro. It would be very simple for him to kill several elders. Haha, the Patriarch is doing this for the sake of the clan. Linley laughed. Right. How did you get involved with the Patriarch? Last time, when Fusro had intervened and saved him, he hadn't known the Patriarch. However, 5 centuries had passed. Anything could have happened in the meantime. You don't need to worry about that. Fusro sent through divine sense. My meeting with your Patriarch will be beneficial to you, not detrimental. That's all that you need to know. Linley laughed and nodded. Everything else aside, you accompanying us back to the Skirite Mountains alone is a great benefit. With Fusro present, along with himself and Twila, they were a force of sizable power. Fusro by himself was equal to multiple 7-star fiends. In addition, I've never even seen Fusro unleash all of his power. Linley thought to himself. Linley, who is this? Delia and Bibi looked at the skinny youth, puzzled. Linley chuckled. When we board the metallic life form, I'll introduce you to him. Fusro just winked deliberately. Wade, in Delia's arms, reached out his pudgy fingers towards Fusro. Fusro had held Wade quite a few times before as well. Although Fusro's appearance had changed greatly, Wade, who had been born less than a year ago, seemed to possess some special sense. Wade, be good. Fusro beamed towards Wade. Delia and Bibi were shocked. How did the skinny little youth in front of them know Wade's name? Everyone's here. Let's head out. Twila walked over, and as he did, an enormous silver metallic life form in the shape of a silver wolf appeared. A tunnel appeared in its flank, and the clansmen of the Azure Dragon clan all entered the metallic life form. Linley, Fusro, Twila, Bibi, and Delia boarded as well. Swoosh. The metallic life form slashed through the air, turning into a blur and disappearing into the horizon. The metallic life form is flying towards position 2. It is flying towards position 2. The intelligence agents of the 8 great clans quickly relayed this information. In mid-air, there were 9 figures flying at high speed. 8 of them were dressed in long grey robes, while the last one was dressed in a long green robe. The green-robed man said hurriedly, 8 elders, Linley's metallic life form was originally headed towards position 2, but now they've changed direction slightly. They should be passing through position 4. We're still a few hundred kilometers away from that location. We'll be there soon. The 8 great clans' intelligence agents had expended an enormous amount of effort on this. With the gate as the center, they had fanned out and set up many gathering points within thousands of kilometers. No matter what direction the Azure Dragon clan's metallic life form headed towards, they would be easily detected by those intelligence agents. As for that green-robed man, one of his divine clones was at the headquarters, and so he knew the location and route of the metallic life form at all times. Excellent. Elder Zabu laughed calmly and spoke mentally. Everyone, we're only a few hundred kilometers away. We'll reach the metallic life form soon. When we do, immediately cover it with your divine senses and locate Linley. At that time, on CNNI 11, you'll be responsible for covering the elder who is protecting the metallic life form. Everyone else, myself included, will all attack simultaneously, joining forces to kill Linley. We can't give him any chance at all. Yes. The 7 elders assented. Of these 8 elders, 3 were in possession of Sovereign's might. Ansi was one of the ordinary elders without it. On this joint mission to kill Linley, 3 elders would use their Sovereign's might, with 4 other elders joining them. With such a tremendously powerful squad, even if Patriarch Gislason came, it would be hard for him to endure such an attack, much less Linley. Actually, Elder Zabu, if you use your Sovereign's might, you'll be more than strong enough to kill Linley by yourself. Even if we don't use Sovereign's might, the joint attacks of 7 elders against Linley will result in a surefire victory. The bearded elder sent mentally. We can't be the slightest bit incautious. Remember. Immediately use your Sovereign's mights. Don't entertain any notions of being frugal. Kill Linley. Nothing is permitted to go wrong. Elder Zabu ordered solemnly yet again. Nice, Tempa, the 2 of you must use your Sovereign's might right away when attack. It was like killing a chicken with a blade meant for slaughtering cows. It was an utter waste. Using 3 drops of Sovereign's might to kill a single Linley. It was indeed extravagant. The enormous wolf-shaped silvery metallic lifeform was speeding forward at a fast pace. The clansmen within the metallic lifeform were chatting amongst each other. Linley, as an elder, naturally had his own room. Linley and Delia were within the room, while Delia was holding little Wade. Wade. Linley teased his son. Will you? Wade, not yet able to speak, could only stare with his big, clear eyes at Linley, mumbling something incomprehensible. Delia watched this scene, watched as her husband teased her son. As she did, Delia's face couldn't help but reveal a smile. She felt surrounded by bliss, and celebrated once more her decision to steadfastly wait 10 years for Linley, so long ago in the past. Linley turned to look and smile towards Delia. Delia, what are you laughing about? I'm just looking at you and our son. Delia's smile was so brilliant. But right at that moment, 8 divine senses simultaneously spread out, covering the metallic lifeform and everyone within it. The faces of many clansmen couldn't help but change, and Delia, as a high god, felt the divine senses as well. 8 divine senses had suddenly swept out. This definitely couldn't be a good. Linley, 8 high god divine senses just swept through this metallic life form. Delia immediately said through divine sense. There was no time to talk. Shocked, Linley's face changed. He immediately spread his divine sense towards the outside. And in mid-air, 8 grey-robed figures were charging at high speed towards the metallic life form. 3 of them, in particular, were emanating a terrifying, heart-stopping aura from their entire bodies. Linley could instantly recognize the aura for what it was. Sovereign's might. Sovereign's might. Linley's face changed dramatically. One of the 8 grey-robed men was moving fairly slowly. As for the other 7, especially the 3 whose bodies were completely covered by a layer of Sovereign's might, charged straight for the metallic life form, directly towards the room which Linley was staying in. Die! Linley, quick, flee! The voices of Fusro and Twila instantly rang out in Linley's mind. They clearly noticed the enemies before Linley had. But, there was no time. Bang! A terrifying energy wave struck the metallic life form, and in the face of that frightening energy wave, the surface of the metallic life form blew apart as though it were paper. The shards were sent flying wildly every which way by the explosion. Linley let a deep growl, and his draconic scales emerged as he entered his dragon form. Slash! Shards of metal flew about everywhere, and Delia immediately lowered her head, tightly embracing her son protectively. Delia, flee! Linley pushed Delia away powerfully, then shouted through divine sense, Twila, protect Delia. The enemies were clearly here for him. This battle was one in which Fusro and Linley would play the primary roles. Linley. Delia, pushed aside, shot backwards like an arrow. Her body immediately became covered with a shield of divine power, protecting little Wade. But Delia still turned to look back. A blurry, earthen yellow light had suddenly spread out. Gravitational space. An azure light had also burst forth. Water-type sovereign's might. In an instant, Linley had unleashed all of his power. A fiery red form charged over while shouting through divine sense, Delia, hurry up and flee, leave the battle to us. Roar! A ferocious draconic howl shook out. Bang! A terrifying, soul-shaking explosive vibration blasted out from the center of that earthen yellow light. Space itself cracked open in multiple areas, and wild blasts of energy emanated in every direction. Some of the weaker clansmen who were hit by it immediately exploded and died. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 45, A Frantic Battle. Within the blurry, earthen yellow field, Linley, his entire body covered by that azure light, had just suffered the combined attacks of 7 elders. The 7 mighty elders had all unleashed the attacks they were most proficient at, either material attacks that tore through the air or invisible spiritual attacks. Because this all happened within such a short time frame, and because he chose to first push Delia out of the danger zone, Linley wasn't able to dodge at all. Rumble. 7 bursts of terrifyingly powerful attacks all struck Linley, 3 of which were attacks which contained Sovereign's might. The air around Linley blew apart, and his draconic scales shattered as blood splashed everywhere. Linley's ravaged body fell down like a meteor, plunging from the skies, smashing hard against the ground. Bang! The earth trembled, and a crater that was 2 or 3 meters wide and so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen appeared. A dazzling, fiery red light slashed through the skies. A desolate, miserable scream. At the same instant that Linley fell from the skies, Elder Nice, his entire body filled with Sovereign's might, fell down from the skies as well. His head had already been completely disintegrated and could no longer be seen. In but an instant, Linley's status was unknown. On the side of the 8 elders, an elder who had used Sovereign's might, Elder Nice, had died. The 8 elders, who had been radiating such an indomitable, martial spirit, were stunned by Fusro's sudden attack. The 7 remaining ones stared in astonishment at this red-haired man whose entire body radiated fire-type Sovereign's might, who was wielding a long awl in his hands. In a single blow, he had killed Elder Nice, who had used Sovereign's might. Linley. Fusro immediately sent his divine sense into the ground. Linley. Delia's face turned ashen, and at the same time, she howled desperately through divine sense, Elder Twila, quick, quick, go help Linley, quick. All right. But you have to be careful and stay far away. Don't be hit by the shock waves. Twila replied urgently through divine sense. Although he had experienced hundreds of battles, upon seeing the sudden, terrifying attacks just now, Twila was tense as well. Good heavens! Fusro was himself a sovereign's emissary. It was only normal for him to have a drop of sovereign's might. But unexpectedly, the enemy had used 3 drops of sovereign's might as well. It seems that after hiding for so many years, it is time to let the 8 great clans know the power that I, Twila, possess. Twila said to himself. And then, not hesitating at all, he used his drop of sovereign's might as well. A wild burst of water-type sovereign's might blasted forth. This immediately caused the 7 elders in the distance to glance towards him, their faces changing dramatically. Elder Zabu, that person in the distance should be an elder of the Azure Dragon clan. The person in front of him should be that sovereign's emissary named Fusro who saved Linley 5 centuries ago. Tempest's entire body was emanating the aura of sovereign's might. He hurriedly asked, "The enemy is more powerful than we expected. What should we do now?" The 7 surviving elders had a bad feeling. An ugly look was on Elder Zabu's face. He had heard of Fusro's power. If Fusro didn't have a sovereign artifact, he wouldn't be afraid of Fusro, but Fusro had not only used his sovereign artifact, but also sovereign's might. He had to admit that he was 1 level weaker than Fusro. Elder Zabu's eyes flashed with a decisive look, and he immediately gave the order. "The patriarchs have given us our orders. In this battle, we must kill Linley, no matter what. Even if all 8 of us die, we must kill Linley. Let me deal with this Fusro. I'll contain him for now. Ansi, you do what you have to do in order to contain that elder of the Azure Dragon clan. The other 5 elders, Tempa, I entrust Linley to you. Even if you die, you must kill him." "Yes." The other 6 elders immediately became resolved. Although this took time to describe, in truth, the communication through divine sense by these 7 elders happened in the blink of an eye. In that blink of an eye, there was only enough time for Twila to begin to charge over, and as he did, Fusro laughed. "Ha ha, you are so audacious. All of you, die." Fusro laughed wildly, and was the first to charge over. "Remember, at all costs, kill Linley." The elfin-looking Elder Zabu shouted through divine sense, while he charged forward to meet Fusro. As for Elder Ansi, he went to go deal with Twila. Swish! Swish! With Elder Zabu at the center, 10 million strands of green branches erupted forth, sweeping towards Fusro. Those 10 million green branches were filled with a green aura, encasing Fusro within. This was Elder Zabu's ultimate technique. The dance of life. The goal wasn't to kill the enemy, just to contain the enemy. Bang! 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 The 5 elders led by Elder Tempa charged directly into the ground. The tough, unyielding ground, in the face of these 7 star fiends, seemed to be made out of tofu, and giant tunnels in the earth were created by each of them. What is going on? What in the world is going on? Many of the Azure Dragon clansmen were hovering in midair in the distance. This sudden attack had made them all numb. It must be the forces of the 8 great clans. The Azure Dragon clansmen could only come to this conclusion. They all stared worriedly at the 2 battles going on in mid-air, while there was a massive battle going on below as well. Delia, holding little weight and with Bibi by her side, stood there in mid-air, staring worriedly towards the ground. "Delia, don't worry. The boss is fine," Bibi hurriedly said through divine sense. "I can sense that the boss is still alive." But although this was what Bibi said, a hint of worry could still be seen in his gaze. This was because shattered draconic scales and a severed arm were lying on the distant ground. This was what Linley had left behind from the sudden attack just now, which had injured him badly. Even though he used Sovereign's might and even though his body's defense was tough, in the face of the combined attack of 7 elders, he was lucky to stay alive. "Linley, you have to be fine." Delia's body was trembling. Right at this moment, a metallic life form hovering in the distance came to a halt, and quite a few people flew out from within it, all of them staring at Fusro, Elder Zabu, Elder Twila, Elder Ansi, and the two battles going on between these combatants. A battle between 7 starfiends, and they've even used Sovereign's might. Shocked cries rang out. Quick, record it down. We can't miss a battle on this level. Quite a few experts who trained in the elemental laws of water hurriedly set up scryer recordings, recording down the distant, incredibly rare battle between supreme experts. Not just them, even quite a members of the Azure Dragon clan were recording this battle. Right at this moment. Rumble, beneath the ground, an enormous serpent seemed to be slithering about. The entire ground was rippling in waves, and wild bursts of energy were spreading about wantonly. There's a battle underground. The many spectators all lowered their heads to watch. Linley. Delia was extremely worried. Deep within the ground, Linley was tunneling at high speed. The draconic scales around his chest were still shattered, while his entire right arm had been severed. The water-type Sovereign's might was currently slowly repairing Linley's body. After all, the more powerful a body, the slower the repair would be. Those 3 who used Sovereign's might are too strong. Linley still felt that his head was in a daze. At the most dangerous juncture, he had used his dragon form as well as the Sovereign's might for defense. Of those 7, 2 specialized in material attacks while the other 5 used spiritual attacks. The physical attacks were used by Tempa and Nice, 2 elders who had used Sovereign's might. By joining forces, not only had the 2 been able to break through Linley's armor formed from Sovereign's might, they had also shattered Linley's draconic scales. If Linley's defense had been just slightly weaker, he probably would have been finished. Fortunately, that person isn't pursuing me. Linley still clearly remembered how that elfin-looking grey-robed man who had used a drop of Sovereign's might had been able to, with a single spiritual attack, easily locate the weakness in Linley's sovereign artifact. Luckily, Linley had gone all out, and by using both the Sovereign's might as well as his hereditary azure light to defend, he had been able to withstand it. If that elfin-looking grey-robed man attacked again along with those 4 behind me with another barrage of spiritual attacks, I wouldn't be able to take it. Linley was truly stunned. Rumble. An enormous black claw suddenly emerged, effortlessly slicing through the impeding earth and clawing towards Linley. Arg. Linley turned and swept outwards with his left arm, which struck out as though it were an enormous millstone slowly grinding away. Space itself seemed to turn sluggish, until that moment when it clashed against the enormous black claw. Bang! The colliding blows caused space itself to be torn apart. Linley, you won't be able to escape. A furious roar echoed in Linley's mind. Linley turned to look. The earth behind him was roiling as 5 figures sped over quickly. Linley's face couldn't help but change. So fast. Because Linley had just launched an attack, the 5 elders had immediately hurried over and followed him. The leader was the big-bearded elder Tempa, and currently, his entire body was covered with a black light which emanated the aura of destruction. The power of his material attack, when paired with destruction-type Sovereign's might, wasn't weaker than Linley's at all. Destruction-type Sovereign's might and death-type Sovereign's might truly are troublesome. Linley still felt the pain in his shattered arm. The joint attacks from those 2 had left vestiges of Sovereign's might in his body. This was causing the healing speed to be even slower. If the only one present was this big-bearded fellow, I could still battle. But these other 4, Linley felt his head hurt. The 5 were in constant pursuit in a group, not giving him a chance to deal with them singly. Swoosh! Linley suddenly burst into the skies. Bang! Tempa and the other 5 elders all immediately charged upwards as well. The many clansmen of the Azure Dragon clan, as well as the spectators in the other metallic life form, were all watching this battle. Right at this tense moment, with a bang sound, the ground exploded. Linley and 5 elders charged outwards in rapid succession. 5 on 1. Quite a few people called out in shock. Quick, record it down. Those people immediately set up more scryer recordings. As for Delia, when she saw Linley, her tears began to fall. Linley. This was because she saw that Linley's arm was severed, and that blood was still flowing out. There was an even more astonishingly large hole in his chest, and the whiteness of his bones could be seen. There was a black, foggy aura covering his chest. Linley wanted to repair himself, but the speed was very slow. Why haven't you caught Linley yet? Why haven't you killed him? Elder Zabu, currently battling Fusro, saw that Linley and those 5 elders had just emerged. He couldn't help but feel frantically angry, and he immediately sent out his divine sense and shouted towards them. Elder Zabu, the power of Linley's gravitational space is simply too great. I have to help the other 4 elders to jointly resist the power of that gravity. Otherwise, we'll be taken on one at a time by him. Elder Tempa hurriedly sent back through divine sense as well. But just as his words were finished, bang! Elder Onsi's body collapsed from the skies. She was dead. Elder Twila shouted, Linley, I'll come help you. As he spoke, he charged over and attacked. Perfect timing. Linley was overjoyed. Although he had used his gravitational space was an Earth-type ultimate technique. When using Water-type Sovereign's might to execute it, although the power was still great, it wasn't too extravagant. It was indeed hard for him to battle 5 others on his own. Haha, your Sovereign's might has almost been used up. I want to see how you'll continue to contain me. Fusro's loud, delighted laugh echoed forth. The dance of life was a trapping technique, after all. Filling all those 10 million branches with Sovereign's might exhausted it very quickly, as the technique consumed an astonishing amount of energy. Tempa, you must kill Linley. A fierce bellow rang out. The elfin-looking Elder Zabu roared, and his entire body suddenly emanated countless specks of green light, which shot out in every direction at an astonishing speed. Boom! Fusro had finally, with great effort, used his long awl to kill Elder Zabu, the most powerful person on the enemy side. However, those countless green specks of light still shot out at high speed, and many people who weren't able to dodge in time had the green specks of light shoot into their bodies, and they all fell down from the skies, one by one. Delia, careful. Bibi hurriedly pushed Delia aside as countless specks of green light directly entered Bibi's body. Wait. Delia didn't care about herself. Using her own body, she completely covered up Wade, and as she did, 2 specks of green light directly entered Delia's body. Right at this moment. Bang! Linley and Elder Tempa clashed against each other fiercely, and their bodies were sent flying apart. However, just as their bodies flew apart, Linley saw from the corner of his eyes. Silently, soundlessly. Her long hair was dancing in the wind. Delia had covered up Wade with her entire body, protecting him completely. She still had tears in the corner of her eyes, which caught and reflected a ray of sunlight. Just like that, Delia slowly, gently drifted down from the skies. Wah-a-a-a-a-a-a-a. Wade suddenly began to sob. This sob was like a knife cutting into Linley's heart. In stunned silence, tears rolled down Linley's cheeks. No, a desolate sound echoed in the heavens. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 46, Spare No One. Linley felt his heart be instantly ripped apart. When Linley was together with Delia, he felt as though he were a lonely boat who had found his harbor, with his heart at peace. Their souls had become deeply intertwined, and neither could leave the other. No, no, no way, Linley couldn't accept it. He would rather die than see what he just saw. How many years had it been? From that first time when he had learned of his father's death, when he had watched as Grandpa Douring sacrificed himself for him, those 2 events had caused Linley to sink into an abyss of despair. Ever since those 2 times, Linley had buried hatred deep into his heart and then encased it in ice. but because of Delia. Linley once more felt the warmth of family. In front of Delia, Linley didn't have to hold back anything. His heart and Delia's heart were completely joined. Linley felt that he was blissful, that the heavens had treated him generously. Because he had Delia, his partner in life. But today, his father had died. Grandpa Douring had died. Those two blows had caused Linley to nearly collapse. But the blow he suffered today was even fiercer than the previous two. Delia had been together with Linley for simply too long. 1,000 years of taking care of each other. Their lives had become one. This, Fusro was stunned as well. Delia. Bibi was stunned as well. He, linked together spiritually with Linley, could feel the despair and deathly loneliness radiating out from Linley's soul. Bibi couldn't help but feel his own soul quiver. What sort of despair was this? Boss. Bibi was about to cry as well. Rumble, Tempa, his entire body covered with that black aura, once more violently charged towards Linley, while Linley just stood there stupidly. Die. Tempa was shaking from excitement. He sent a full force fist smashing towards Linley's head. Before his fist arrived, the spatial ripples it generated arrived, striking at Linley's head. Linley, rather numbly, turned to look, but all he saw in front of his eyes was a fist glowing with flowing black light. Linley seemed to have gone insane, as he let out a terrifying howl. His undamaged left arm suddenly swung out, snatching the oncoming fist, delivering it into his own chest. Bang! The fierce punch cracked the sovereign's might covering Linley's body, smashing against his chest. Crunch! His ribs shattered and his chest caved in. Tempa was completely stunned. What was Linley doing? Whoosh! Linley's draconic tail suddenly swung over, stretching out towards Tempa and wrapping itself around him. Linley's left arm was clutching Tempa's right arm, while his draconic tail was binding Tempa, pulling him into a tight embrace. Tempa wasn't able to break free. The two stared face to face, right next to each other. Linley seemed like a madman. He suddenly turned his head, ramming it viciously against the opponent. That fierce, azure golden spiked horn in Linley's forehead, covered with that azure light, stabbed down viciously. F***ck off. Tempa wanted to break free. But Linley's sovereign's might was on full power, and water-type sovereign's might was durable to begin with. Even worse, Linley's body was more powerful than his to begin with. Tempa, break free? Unlikely. Die. Linley howled ferociously like a madman. His head savagely, repeatedly slammed towards his enemies, and so too did that fierce horned spike, covered with sovereign's might. What was the toughest, sharpest part of Linley's body? It wasn't his fist. It wasn't his scales. It was these spikes. They were just like the spikes of an armored razorback WYRM, which before death would unleash its most powerful attack by blasting out these spikes. An armored razorback WYRM of the 9th rank was able to use these spikes to pierce through the body of a saint-level magical beast. Linley's spikes, in turn, had been strengthened and intensified by the blood essence of the Azure Dragon, as well as that drop of Sovereign's might. The sharpness of those spikes was utterly terrifying. For Tempa to have his head struck by Linley's, and especially given that Tempa's body was inferior to Linley's to begin with. After his protective barrier of Sovereign's might was broken through after 3 successive stabs, Tempa only had enough time to let out a bellow, and then stopped making any noise. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, Linley's head had smashed into the opponents countless times. Bibi, Fusro, Twila, and even those other 4 enemy elders were staring in disbelief. Tempa's entire head had been slammed into pulp. His divine spark had been knocked flying, but Linley continued to smash. Smash his head. Smash his body. Blood flew everywhere. Muddy bits of flesh flew everywhere. The sight was utterly unbearable. Linley's eyes were as crimson as blood, and he was utterly wild. Boss, BB had never seen Linley go so berserk before. Through their soul connection, he could feel that Linley had completely descended into a mindless savagery, the throes of which caused BB to tremble. The four elders were stunned as well. How could a battle between 7 star fiends end up like this? Linley didn't block Tempa's attack, but rather grappled Tempa, then used his own head to smash him to death? As they looked at Linley, whose arm was severed, chest was caved in, and whose face was covered with blood, they felt their hearts grow cold. Linley, stop, stop! Fusro shouted through divine sense. Stop immediately! Fusro rushed over, giving Linley a vicious punch, and Linley's body couldn't help but tremble. This punch brought Linley back to sanity. What am I doing? Linley felt as though he had gone completely insane. He then looked sideways at the distant Delia, lying on the ground. His eyes couldn't help but immediately turn red once again, and then he turned to look at the other 4 elders. Those 4 elders hadn't used Sovereign's might. The 4 elders had been stunned by Linley's display of savagery. Only now did they come to their senses. Elder Zavu and the others died. We aren't of any use here. The appearance of this Fusro was completely out of our expectations. Let's flee. The 4 elders hurriedly spoke through divine sense, and then they fled in every direction. But Linley just let out a bellow. Rumble. Azure light spread out everywhere to a diameter of hundreds of meters, trapping all 4 of those elders in the distance who had sought to flee within. The azure light then transformed into an enormous cube. Blackstone prison. A blackstone prison formed from Sovereign's might? This was water-type Sovereign's might. Although it wasn't earth-type, it was still far more powerful than Linley's own god-level divine power. The durability was extremely powerful in particular. These 4 elders, in turn, didn't have Sovereign's power. Trapped within this blackstone prison, there was no way they could flee at all. Linley, Fusro wanted to speak. Fusro. Twila. Don't interfere. Leave this blackstone prison. Let me handle the 4 of them. Linley growled, and a corridor split open from above. Fusro and Twila let out sighs, then flew out. Within the Blackstone prison, Linley could defeat them one by one. Given that the enemies were not in possession of Sovereign's might, this was a battle between 2 people on completely different levels. Darkness. Not a single hint of light could be seen. The 4 elders were trapped into different parts of the cube. All of them wildly struck the walls, but how could they possibly break through this cube formed from Sovereign's might? Within one of the rooms. It's all over. The grey-robed elder was in complete despair. Whoosh! The wall suddenly split open, and a person walked in. The grey-robed elder's heart trembled as he looked at the dragon-formed Linley, his entire body covered with blood. It's all because of you. A growling voice. Whoosh! Linley charged forward. Shocked. The grey-robed elder wanted to resist, but a ray of spiritual energy spread forth. This was the spiritual chaos formed from Sovereign's might, and the grey-robed elder instantly fell into a stunned state. When Linley had dealt against Tempa and the rest of the 5, he could have used this technique to put the other 4 into a stupor. However, Elder Tempa had Sovereign's might to protect himself, and so Linley wouldn't have been able to influence him at all. Tempa naturally would protect the other 4 in turn. This was the reason why Linley hadn't used this technique yet. But now, the grey-robed elder, under the effect of the spiritual chaos, was nothing more than a ragdoll target. Hello, Linley. My name is Delia. In Linley's mind, that scene of his first meeting with Delia in the wind-style magic class at the Ernst Institute drifted to his mind. At that time, Delia was just an adorable little girl. Bang! Linley's draconic scale-covered fist smashed the grey-robed elder's head. Linley's form moved towards the direction of another room with an elder. Linley, before I leave, can I hug you? When Linley's father had died that year, that dark night in Wushan Township, Delia had said that she wanted to give Linley a hug before she left. But that time, Delia had kissed him instead. Bang! Yet another grey-robed elder died. Linley walked forward, completely emotionless. In front of him, another corridor appeared within the wall. "Milord, there's a person named Delia outside. She says that she was your classmate and that she wishes to see you." That first time they had met again after their 10 years of separation. At that time, Linley had already become the world-renowned Master Linley, while Delia was the envoy of the Yulan Empire. "Hey arg!" A fist swung out like a mountain, smashing against the body of a grey-robed elder. Immediately, with a bang sound, space itself exploded as a large hole appeared in space. Half of the grey-robed elder's body was blasted apart. Linley, his face expressionless, took a few more steps forward, entering another wall. "Delia, what is it?" I cried. Delia clutched at Linley's chest. "I want to cry. When I think about how in the past, you were together with Alice, I want to cry. When I think about how I waited for you for 10 years, I want to cry. Will you?" The night of their wedding, Delia had been in his arms, throwing a tantrum. After Linley killed the final grey-robed elder, the Blackstone prison vanished. That drop of sovereigns might had been completely used up as well. "Delia," Linley murmured. His tears fell down, mixing in with the blood on his face. The entire world was silent. The members of the Azure Dragon clan and the distant spectators didn't dare make any sound. They could all sense a terrible, deathly pressure. They just watched quietly as Linley flew towards Delia. "Yaaaaa, yaaaaa." Wade's sobbing echoed in the mountains and forests. Linley, hearing his son's sobs, couldn't help but tremble. Linley quietly sat down next to Delia's body. Delia's face was still wet with tears. These were the tears she had shed upon seeing Linley be in dire straits during the battle. Linley reached his hand out, gently examining her. As of this moment, Delia's body didn't have any aura at all. "Yaaaaa." Wade was sobbing non-stop. Linley returned to human form as well. He stretched his arms out, picking up Wade. Wade, in his father's arms, continued to sob. "Don't cry, Wade," Linley said softly. "Boss, it's all my fault." Bibi was agonized as well. "Linley, Delia isn't dead." A sound rang out. Linley's entire body shuddered, and he suddenly rose to his feet, hurriedly turning to look towards Fusro. In disbelief, he said, "Fusro, what did you say?" Fusro said seriously, "Linley, I'll tell you this. Delia isn't dead. Not only is she not dead, all of the other people who were struck by that elfin-looking elder's dying blow aren't dead either." But, Linley couldn't sense any aura from Delia at all. Fusro said with certainty, that elfin-looking elder's dying blow sent out nearly 1,000,000 green specks of light flying out. Many of those who were hit by just a single speck of green light all fell. "Can it be that you think, that elfin-looking elder was capable of killing 1,000,000 high gods with a single technique?" Linley came to his senses. Right. No matter how powerful an elder was, he would at most be able to kill 100 or nearly 1,000 people with a technique. But to kill 1,000,000 high gods? Impossible. Utterly impossible. In truth, when the elfin-looking elder had released those green specks of light, although he had sent nearly 1,000,000, in reality, because the people in the area were tightly clustered together, most of the green specks of light were blocked by the people standing in front. It would be amazing if even 10,000 died. Then Delia isn't dead, but why doesn't she have any aura at all? Linley turned to look at Delia. He sent a ray of spiritual energy out, slowly sending it into Delia's mind. Within Delia's sea of consciousness, her divine spark was still there. Her sea of consciousness, however, wasn't moving at all. It was deathly still, without any hint of a living aura. That elfin-looking elder should have been an expert of the Edric clan, which moved here from the higher plane of life. He trained in the edicts of life. Fusro said solemnly. Although the people hit aren't dead, there isn't much of a difference between their state and death. Linley hurriedly shook his head. And then, he looked at Fusro. Fusro, tell me. What is going on with Delia? Can she be saved? Fusro let out a low sigh. Linley, the most powerful healing stems from the laws of life, but it is also experts of the edicts of life who have the most bizarre ways of attacking and harming the soul. That elfin elder was an elite amongst them. Before dying, he released that technique, spreading out countless specks of green light, each of which is actually just a seed. Seed? Linley didn't understand. Linley, a person's foundation is the soul. Fusro explained. That green light burrows into the soul and begins to devour the energy of the soul, converting it to energy for its own use. Devour, convert. Linley began to understand. A single speck of green light is very weak. Compared to the entire soul, it is minuscule. However, the single speck of green light, with each devour, will duplicate and result in 2 specks of green light. And then, those 2 specks of green light will continue to devour and become 4 specks. 4 will then become 8, and as this continues, Fusro's eyes were filled with awe as well. It is very terrifying. Although the soul of a high god is very strong, under this sort of devouring, the soul will constantly weaken. There will come the day when one soul will completely transform into green specks of light, at which point Delia will die. Linley felt that this was unbelievable. Souls could be described as strong, but also as fragile. Once they were shattered, they would be finished. But this devouring, it wouldn't immediately cause the soul to be destroyed. Because, to be precise, the green light was merging with the soul and was part of it. Actually, this was a sort of soul transformation process. Once the transformation was complete, the soul would be finished. Then is there a way to save her? Linley immediately asked. This Fusro had a very high degree of attainment in the soul as well. This has reached deep into her soul. Saving her will be very hard. Fusro shook his head. I only train in the laws of fire. My attacks are powerful, but my healing, alas. Linley's face immediately changed. However, supreme experts who train in the edicts of life should be able to save Delia. However, we have to hurry to the Skirite Mountains. Fusro said. But in the Skirite Mountains, the 4 divine beasts clan does not train the edicts of life. If we go to other places to find experts, there's no time, there's no time. There was no time. These words caused Linley's entire body to sway. There's no time. Linley was frantic. There's too few people in the infernal realm who train in the edicts of life. The 8 great clans do, but they are your enemies. How could they possibly help? Fusro shook his head and sighed. No. We can go to another place. Linley said hurriedly. Impossible. There's no time. Based on the rate at which the devouring occurs, in a year or so, Delia's soul will be completely devoured. Fusro said resignedly. In Indigo Prefecture, I have no idea of any other power aside from the 8 great clans that has supreme experts who specialize in the edicts of life. Linley lowered his head to look at Delia. Delia was lying there quietly. No, Linley couldn't accept it. Although she didn't die, in the future, she would. But in a short year, even at maximum speed, he would still be within Indigo Prefecture. But within Indigo Prefecture, the strongest forces were the 4 divine beasts clan and the 8 great clans, while only the Edric clan from the higher plane of life possessed supreme experts who trained in the edicts of life. The other powers? The four Divine Beasts clan didn't have any such experts, at least. What to do? Delia, Linley was going completely mad. Fusro looked about, seeing many Azure Dragon clansmen lying on the ground. So many people. He let out a sigh. Although those green specks of light are weak, they are very hard to deal with. Ordinary high gods aren't able to resist them, unless they have soul-protecting artifacts or have extremely powerful souls. But of course, one can block it if one had Sovereign's might. This elfin elder truly was vicious. Linley, lost in his grief, suddenly heard those words, Sovereign's might. Sovereign's might. Linley's body trembled. Sovereign's might can resist it? Linley's heart shook. Linley, what is it? Fusro looked at him. Linley suddenly turned to stare at him. Fusro, did you just say that Sovereign's might can block it? Are you saying that if I had given Delia a drop of Sovereign's might and she had been struck, she wouldn't die? Right. The Elfin Elder's attack is powerful, but once it encounters Sovereign's might, it will still dissipate. How could it possibly break through the defense of Sovereign's might? Fusro nodded. However, don't be too heartbroken. After all, you need to use Sovereign's might while battling as well. Linley was stunned. Battle. Battle. But he had 3 drops of it. Why didn't I give any to Delia? Why? Linley's face turned ashen. Why didn't I give it to her? Why? Why? With a flip of his hand, Linley retrieved a drop of Sovereign's might. Beneath the light of the sun, it seemed so resplendent. Seeing this drop of Sovereign's might, Fusro was stunned as well. Why? Wade's sobbing cries continued unabated. Linley lowered his head to look at the sobbing Wade, then at the slumbering Delia, and then at this drop of Sovereign's might. His gaze turned more and more savage, and the flesh on his face slowly began to twitch as his face slowly turned purple. And then, a hint of blood slowly began to leak from his mouth. A howl of incomparable agony ripped forth from Linley's mouth, shaking the world. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 47, Begging for Salvation. It's me. It's my fault. If I had given a drop of Sovereign's might to Delia, she wouldn't die. Why didn't I give it to Delia? Why? Why? Endless guilt racked Linley's chest, with regret striking viciously at his soul. Linley's entire mind was in a state of chaos, and had sunken into a state of endless remorse. Bibi, Fusro, and Twila look at each other, worry appearing on their faces. Why? Little Wade continuously cried, and his sobs seemed to be more ear-piercing than ever before in that utterly silent mountainous area. Linley felt that each cry from Wade stabbed against his heart. Don't cry, Wade, don't cry. Holding Wade, Bibi was growing frantic as well. Boss. Bibi said frantically. Linley. Fusro called out worriedly as well. But Linley didn't seem to hear anything. He was completely lost in his regret and grief. The look on his face was one which made others tremble upon beholding. Right. Linley let out a sudden growl. It was my selfishness. I always thought about my own safety, and I didn't think about Delia. I kept the Sovereign's might on my own person this entire time. It was my selfishness. I was too selfish. Self-criticism. Self-hatred. Linley, his thoughts in a jumble, had pushed the blame squarely onto his own shoulders, due to his selfishness. Actually, Delia was too weak. Even if she had Sovereign's might, she wouldn't be able to defeat a 7-star fiend. It was only natural that Linley should be the one to use Sovereign's might to protect Delia. If Linley truly was selfish, then when facing the combined strike of those 7 elders, he wouldn't have pushed Delia aside at that critical moment, thereby wasting precious time. After all, at that time, he could have dodged instead. All 7 of those attacks had landed. Linley had nearly died. Although he hadn't died, the protective armor of sovereigns might had been broken through, and even his body had been crippled. However, Linley's thoughts had entered a state of confusion, and others were completely unable to dissuade him. It was my selfishness. It's all my fault. If I had given sovereign's might to Delia, she wouldn't die. Linley's mind was utterly chaotic. These words were the only thing that consistently echoed within his consciousness. Linley! Fusro suddenly roared. Hurry up and seize every moment to save Delia. By wasting time here, you are killing Delia. These words suddenly brought Linley back to his senses. He looked at Delia, lying there on the ground. Fusro's words suddenly brought Linley back into clear-mindedness. Every moment, Delia's soul is being devoured and transformed. I can't waste any time, I can't. By now, Linley's right arm had already grown out to the elbow. The more powerful the body, the slower the recovery. Fusro. Linley turned to look at Fusro. My mind is in shambles right now. Tell me, what should I do? What are my best options for saving Delia? Linley, in his current state, truly wasn't suited for making decisions. Fusro let out a mental sigh of relief. For Linley to be able to say this meant that his mind was clear, at least. Fusro immediately said solemnly, Linley, neither you nor I are as familiar with the experts of the Indigo Prefecture as your patriarch, Gislason. Gislason is the leader of the Four Divine Beasts clan, and he knows far more than we do. Your patriarch will know more than anyone else as to who will be able to save Delia. Perhaps the Four Divine Beasts clan itself has someone capable of rescuing Delia. Linley's eyes immediately lit up. Right. The Four Divine Beasts clan has existed for so long. Perhaps it truly does have a supreme expert capable of saving Delia. A hint of hope appeared in Linley's mind. Right now, we need to hurry back to the Skirite Mountains. Normally, metallic life forms will take nearly 2 months, but if we travel by day and by night without resting, we should be able to get there in 10 days or half a month. Once we reach the Skirite Mountains, there'll be more people and more ideas. Fusro said hurriedly. Linley made up his mind as well. That's what we'll do, then. Linley's body once more dragon formed. In terms of flying speed, his dragon form's flying speed was indeed much faster. Linley lowered his head to look at Delia, lying there on the ground. Delia looked as though she were asleep. Linley said gently, Delia, you have to hold on. Stretching out his left hand, he took Delia into his arms. Fusro, please hold Wade. Linley said. We'll immediately head out. All right. Fusro took Wade from Bibi's arms. Boss, don't be too heartbroken. Delia will definitely recover. Bibi said consolingly. Linley forced out a smile, then nodded slightly. Right. Bibi, you stay with the others. Fusro and I will go back first. Bibi nodded, and then he watched as Linley and Fusro pierced through the skies, disappearing into the horizon. Bibi's eyes had tears within them as well. Raising his head upwards, he looked at the sky. Over gods, the boss has already lost his father and his grandpa Douring. No matter what, you can't let Delia die as well. If Delia dies, then the boss. Bibi and Linley had lived so many years together. He understood Linley very well. No matter what sort of difficult circumstances or dire straits Linley was in, he wasn't afraid at all and would face them head on. But, when those close to him left, Linley suffered terrifying emotional blows. All right. Everyone, hurry into the metallic life form. We'll make haste back home. Twilla's voice rang out. All of you, stop being sad. Move all of our unconscious clansmen into the metallic life form. We will hurry backwards. It wasn't just Delia who was unconscious. There were quite a few clansmen lying on the ground, while quite a few onlookers were injured as well. When they learned that these people weren't dead yet, they too felt a hint of new hope. The Azure Dragon clansman entered the metallic life form, and then it once more pierced through the skies, also making haste and flying towards the Skirite Mountains. When the Azure Dragon clansman left, the only people remaining were those who were in that other metallic life form. Too powerful. Especially that expert from the Azure Dragon clan. He was actually able to fight 5 other experts by himself, and slaughtered them all. These people weren't saddened for Delia, only stunned by this battle. That grey-robed who died was powerful as well, the one who sent all those terrifying green specks of light out. Did anyone hear what that expert of the Azure Dragon clan is named? I thought I heard that big fellow with long red hair shout Linley loudly. Right. He is named Linley. I heard it as well. This Linley, judging from his power, has to at least be an elder of the Azure Dragon clan. A hubbub of conversation, but then, these spectators who had watched the battle and recorded it down with scryer recordings all returned to their own metallic life form and left. Moments later, multiple figures flew over at high speed to the battlefield. Even Elder Zabu died. The 8 elders are all dead. In mid-air, a fiery light instantly streaked in from the southern horizon, arriving at the northern skies. Linley and Fusro were currently flying at maximum speed. However, even dragon-formed, in terms of flying speed, Linley was still far inferior compared to Fusro. Thus, Fusro spread out his energy, enveloping Linley within it and carrying him. This caused their speed to rise to a higher level. Linley lowered his head, looking at Delia. Delia's eyes were closed, and she was in a state of complete unconsciousness. Linley's arms were now completely healed. Delia, you have to be fine. Linley spoke very softly. He felt boundless grief and regret towards Delia. If Delia truly were to die, Linley didn't know what he would do in the future. He wouldn't be able to accept it at all. Fusro, seeing Linley like this, couldn't help but sigh. Can love truly cause a person to become like this? Fusro said in his heart. He had been captured and tamed by Elkin when he was a saint, and had always been used as a little golden kitten, without being given any chance to experience love. Linley, don't worry. Given my speed, we'll reach the Skirite Mountains very soon. Fusro consoled. Right. Fusro, thank you for this. Truly. Linley, although frantic, still spoke with gratitude. Thank me for what? It's my fault, in a way. I let that elfin elder have the opportunity to release that final attack. Fusro said guiltily. In truth, that elder Zabu was the most powerful of those 8 elders. He was so powerful that he nearly had the strength of an Azura. Once he also used a drop of Sovereign's might, his strength was indeed terrifying. It isn't your fault. That person truly was powerful. Linley still remembered how, when he had suffered the combined attacks of those 7 elders, the most dangerous one of them had been that elfin elder. With but a single attack, he had nearly caused Linley to be finished. I'm still not strong enough. Linley stared into the distance. The 2 of them, transformed into that fiery light, continued to fly towards the horizon at high speed. And finally, they arrived at the Skirite Mountains. After having flown for 6 days and a night, they arrived at the Skirite Mountains just as nightfall came. Linley, upon seeing the distant dragon avenue of the Skirite Mountains, felt his heart tremble. While flying forward at high speed, he immediately called out frantically, "Patriarch, Patriarch!" Linley's roars shook the air above the entire Skirite Mountains. Who is it? Halt! The patrolling warriors of the Skirite Mountains hurriedly shouted. Linley and Fusro were flying too quickly. Their bodies were surrounded with fiery light as well, making it even harder for those patrolling warriors to see them clearly. Whoosh! Fusro immediately retracted his fire-type divine power, and those patrolling warriors were immediately able to see the 2 of them clearly. One of them was in dragon form, and clearly was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. They all couldn't help but feel relieved. "It is Elder Linley." Immediately, some patrolling warriors recognized him. That savage, spike-studded dragon form had become Linley's trademark. "Linley, what is it?" A figure flew over at high speed. It was Elder Garvey. Elder Garvey, seeing Linley look so frantic, with his entire body stained with blood, couldn't help but ask in a hurry, "What happened? What's wrong with Delia?" "Delia," before Linley even had a chance to reply. "Linley." A voice rang out, and a powerfully built figure with azure hair flew out at high speed. It was the patriarch of the Azure Dragon clan, Gislason. Gislason immediately saw Fusro. "What happened?" "We were attacked. Delia is now in critical condition," Fusro said hurriedly. Gislason, seeing the situation, immediately said, "Come to my place right away." As he spoke, he immediately led Linley and the others towards his residence. Within the residence of the patriarch, the main hall, Linley gently placed Delia onto a seat, and then turned his head to look at Gislason. "Patriarch, Delia suffered a spiritual attack from an elder of the Edric clan, of the 8 great clans." "The Edric clan?" "The Edicts of Life." Gislason's face changed, and he immediately used his spiritual sense to probe Delia's situation. Linley, keeping hope alive in his mind, watched this scene. Not only was the patriarch physically powerful, he was also extremely formidable with respect to the soul. Perhaps the patriarch might have some method for saving Delia. Linley waited, and as he did, his heart was trembling. Elder Garvey and Fusro just stood there, not daring to say a word. "Formidable, formidable." Gislason sighed in amazement. "What is it?" Linley said hurriedly. Gislason turned to look at Linley. He said solemnly, "The devouring transformation in Delia's soul isn't too bad right now. However, the devouring will grow faster and faster. I've never imagined that the Edicts of Life contained a technique like this. With regards to this, alas," Gislason shook his head and sighed. Linley was stunned. "But don't grow frantic. I can't save her, but that doesn't mean others can't either," Gislason said hurriedly. Right at this moment, 2 people charged in, one of which was Foreign. "What on earth is going on?" Foreign said frantically. When he saw Linley in the corner of his eyes, his face couldn't help but change. Linley was actually still alive. This was completely out of his expectations. "Foreign, it's good that you are here. You and Garvey, hurry over to Bloodbath Gorge and have the Grand Elder and the others come. Oh, right, hurry, and ask the other 3 clan leaders to come as well. Hurry!" Gislason shouted. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 48, Their Proposals. "Yes, Patriarch." Elders Garvey and Foreign didn't dare to dawdle, immediately departing towards Bloodbath Gorge. The entire main hall immediately became silent, and even Wade had fallen asleep in Fusro's arms. "Wade, give me the child," Linley said. Fusro handed the child to Linley. Linley, holding his son in his arms, looked at the nearby unconscious Delia, a sour feeling in his heart. Swoosh! Swoosh! Multiple other elders hurried over. Just as they were about to speak, Gislason immediately sent out his divine sense and barked, "Be silent. Linley's wife has just suffered an attack from an expert of the Edric clan of the 8 great clans. All of you who specialize in the soul, go take a look and see if you can save her." You all came. Linley looked in surprised delight at these elders. "Hurry over and take a look and see if you can save Delia." Linley was at the point where whenever he saw someone, he would want them to go take a look. The many elders glanced at each other, and then they all walked towards Delia's side. A silver-haired elder said, "Then I'll give it a try first." As the second elder, he had reached an exceedingly high level of accomplishment with regards to the soul. Fusro. Gislason led Fusro to one side. The Lord Prefects. This isn't the time for discussing that. Fusro couldn't help but frown. Gislason was startled. He then glanced sideways at Linley, then nodded towards Fusro. I understand. Right. What happened? You, Twila, and Linley were present on this journey. How could this have happened to Delia? Tell me the story in detail. As the patriarch, Gislason knew that something was off. Humph. It's all due to the situation between your 4 Divine Beasts clan and the 8 great clans. Fusro let out a low snort. Clearly, he was very dissatisfied. As Fusro saw it, Linley had been harmed by the 4 Divine Beasts clan. And then, Fusro described what happened in detail. At first, Linley and I were riding in that metallic life form as we left Mir City. Fusro gave a detailed description of what had happened, from start to finish. At the same time, those elders standing next to Delia were all using their own spiritual energy to enter Delia's mind, investigating the situation. How is it? Linley held weight as he looked at these elders. He felt his heart trembling non-stop. Nothing I can do. The silver-haired elder shook his head and sighed. These green specks of lights are too obstinate. They constantly devour, and as they do, they also become part of the soul itself. To use brute force to kill and eradicate these green spots of light will cause Delia to die immediately. To cure Delia will be hard. Very hard. When he said those 2 words, very hard, the silver-haired elder stopped speaking. Linley hurriedly looked towards the other elders. The other elders shook their heads as well. Linley, don't be impatient. In our 4 Divine Beasts clan, the most proficient at the soul are those members of the Vermilion Bird clan. They possess the flames of rebirth, and perhaps, they'll have some method for curing Delia. The silver-haired elder said. Right. Flames of rebirth. A hint of hope appeared in Linley's mind. Right at this moment, Linley felt space shudder. He couldn't help but turn to look. And he saw multiple figures descending from the air. There were dozens of figures. Elder brother. A deep voice rang out. It was the patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan. The other 3 clan leaders, along with the Grand Elder, had all hurried over. Because of the commands of Gislason, a large group of people now filled this main hall, surging towards and looking at Linley and Delia. Fusro. These people noticed Fusro as well. Hurry and take a look at Linley's wife. Fusro just said. What's wrong with Linley's wife? An elder of the Vermilion Bird clan asked hurriedly. Holding his son, Linley immediately stood up. Looking at the throng of people, all of whom were the most elite members of the 4 Divine Beasts clan, he immediately said, My wife suffered a spiritual attack from an elder of the Edric clan. As for her situation, everyone, come take a look. I hope that someone who has the ability to rescue my wife will do so. These elders all noticed the look on Linley's face and in his eyes. They could all sense that Linley's heart had torn to pieces from worry. Everyone, go take a look. Perhaps someone will be able to do something. Gislason said hurriedly. The entire 4 Divine Beasts clan had, in total, just 70 or 80 elders. More than 50 of them were present here. Clearly, the majority of them had hurried over. The first to take a look were the 3 clan leaders, who all investigated Delia's situation. And then, one elder after another used their spiritual energy to investigate Delia's situation. Seeing the large group of people, Linley felt a hint of confidence in his mind. With so many people present, much like how I can train in other laws, the elders of the clan might include someone who trains in the edicts of life. Perhaps someone will be able to rescue Delia. In addition, the matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan is present. The Vermilion Bird clan possesses the Flames of Rebirth ability. They can save themselves with it, perhaps they'll also be able to save Delia. Holding his son, Linley just watched hopefully at these elders. He was like a drowning man staring at floating logs of wood. Fusro, seeing the look on Linley's face, couldn't help but think back to the first time he had met Linley. At that time, although Linley had been in dire straits, he hadn't lost his composure like he currently had. Alas, Fusro sighed to himself. Soon, the elders completed their inspection. Some of them were extremely skilled with regards to the soul, but they all couldn't help but frown and shake their heads. Linley, seeing the looks on the faces of the elders, especially when they shook their heads and sighed, felt his heart ache. "How is it?" Linley's voice was hoarse now, but his gaze was firmly fixed upon the matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan. The matriarch just turned to look at the others. "Everyone, do you have any solutions? Fourth brother, your soul is very powerful. Do you have a solution? This is too bizarre. I've never seen an attack like this." The muscular, brown-haired man said with a frown. "To save Delia, there must be a step-by-step treatment process, much like the devouring process itself. There must be a slow counter-devouring, converting the green spots of light back into spiritual energy. In addition, during the treatment process, there can't be any mistakes at all. If any energy ripples strike the soul might collapse. Difficult. Difficult. Difficult." Hearing these words, Linley's heart fell into an abyss. "Vermilion Bird matriarch, how about you?" Linley hurriedly looked towards her. But the matriarch just said, "Linley, I'm truly sorry. Our Vermilion Bird clan's ability to save ourselves isn't bad, but even if we save ourselves, it takes a tremendous amount of energy. Save others? We don't have that ability." Linley couldn't help but look at each of the other elders. However, all of the elders either sighed or shook their heads. None of them had any solutions. To quickly and yet methodically advance and counter-devour those green lights, it's too hard. That brown-haired man shook his head. "As I see it, in the entire infernal realm, there are only a few people who train in certain other laws and edicts who can rescue her, but I can count those off on one hand. Other than them, only supreme experts who train in the edicts of life can save her. Not just edicts of life. A supreme expert in the edicts of life. If one trained in the edicts of fate, the edicts of death, it would also be possible. Only, the requirements for those people would be even higher. They would have to be at the absolute pinnacle of their fields, with their souls nearing the point of perfection. The requirements for an expert in the edicts of life would be lower. Generally speaking, anyone who had reached the level of that elfin elder would be enough. Are there none amongst you who train in the edicts of life?" Linley asked, unwilling to give up. The patriarch of the White Tiger clan nodded. "There are. However, to reach the level of the person who launched that attack is difficult. Just being able to execute an attack like this requires an astonishing level of understanding with regards to the soul." "Ah!" The matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan suddenly cried out. "My clan has a person who trains in the edicts of life, and his level of accomplishments is very high." Linley immediately looked at her. Gislason and Fusro all looked towards her as well. The matriarch said confidently, "His name is Kestrel Caius Iter. He's not an elder, he's a 6-star fiend. However, his level of accomplishments in the edicts of life is very high. I can't say for certain as to whether or not Kestrel will be able to save Delia, but he has a teacher whose name is Alphonsus Afang Sasi. Alphonsus is not a member of our Four Divine Beasts clan. He is a supreme expert who trains in the edicts of life. Last time, I heard from Kestrel that his teacher was right here in Indigo Prefecture. Kestrel might not be able to save Delia, but Alphonsus definitely will." Linley's eyes immediately lit up. 2 experts in the edicts of life had suddenly appeared. "Hurry and summon Kestrel over." The matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan ordered a subordinate elder of hers. "Yes, matriarch." That elder flew out at high speed. Fusro laughed as he walked over. Haha, Linley, I told you, right? At the Four Divine Beasts clan, there will definitely be a way to save Delia. If this kestrel can't do it, then his teacher definitely can. Don't worry. Linley felt as the world, which had lost its color, suddenly became so bright and vivid once more, filled with hope. Linley lowered his head to look at Delia. He said gently, Delia, you have to hold on. There are two experts who train in the edicts of life. They will definitely save you. Definitely. He then looked at his son in his arms. Linley's heart was filled with hope. Everything will be well. In the midst of the elders, Foran looked at the expression on Linley's face. In his heart, he snorted, you really are lucky. You didn't die. But it's all for the best. Your wife is in such a state, causing you to be in such despair. I feel absolutely joyful to see you like this. Linley. A deep voice rang out, and Gislason walked over. This time, not long after you left Mir City, you actually suffered an ambush from 8 enemy elders, and 3 of them immediately used Sovereign's might at the very beginning. This clearly was a premeditated ambush. How could the enemies have known about your whereabouts? Linley raised his head to look at Gislason. Patriarch, are you saying? Linley had a thought. A year or so ago, you rode that metallic life form to Mir City. In the past year, there have been 3 groups of visits on metallic life forms, but the 8 great clans haven't launched any attacks. But as soon as you leave Mir City, they attack. Clearly, they were tracking your whereabouts, resulting in them being able to arrange for their forces to lie in wait. Gislason said. How can the enemies know your whereabouts so clearly? Linley couldn't help but nod. Perhaps someone in your clan revealed the secret. Fusro snorted coldly. Otherwise, how could they have found Linley so easily? Fusro. Gislason couldn't help but frown and bark at him. When Foran heard these words, his pupils contracted. At this moment, Linley suddenly turned to look towards Foran. Their gazes just so happened to meet, and Foran couldn't help but be surprised. Is Linley suspecting me? If someone revealed the secret, it had to have been him or his son. Linley said to himself. After all, in the clan, only the 2 of them had any grudges against him. Right at this moment, 2 figures flew in from outside at high speed. Linley immediately turned to look, and his gaze immediately focused on a black-haired, handsome youth. This black-haired youth immediately walked towards the matriarch of the Vermilion Bird clan and said, Matriarch. Hurry over and take a look at Elder Linley's wife and see if you can rescue her. The matriarch said. Yes. The black-haired youth first nodded towards Linley, then looked towards Delia before closing his eyes in thought. Linley watched this scene nervously. But then, the black-haired youth opened his eyes, and he looked at Linley frantically. Elder Linley, your wife's situation is very terrible. There's nobody in our clan capable of saving her. But don't you have a teacher? Linley said worriedly. My teacher should be able to save her, but, although my teacher is within Indigo Prefecture, to go from the Skirite Mountains to my teacher's place is a round trip of half a year, even for 7-star fiends who are making haste. I'm worried that based on the speed at which this devouring is occurring, your wife won't be able to hold on for that long.